capital fund with the board policy being that you can draw out of that to fill operating needs. I mean, I just think it's an accounting question. It's a good question by Carla. I don't know that the board needs to formally adopt anything on that today, but something to think about and give direction to Carla. It could be something that the auditors may have a preference on the process that's used for that, and that's another thing to think about.
But the language is okay and appropriate for this particular budgetary situation, correct?
I think so.
Okay, good.
Mr. Chairman, it's Roger.
Yes.
I would prefer to keep it separate because I do look at it every month, and if Carla can just have the ability to move money back and forth, I like to see it separate on that report.
Right. Well, as long as we're going to do it this way, she can do that. Continue to do it.
Right.
Got it.
All right.
Perfect.
Good. Other discussions. What about the idea of having individual meetings with, or allowing the opportunity for departmental heads, supervisors to at least explain, they know the situation we're in and they know what's needed, they are versus what's wished. I would be interested in hearing at least from the departmental heads or something from them relative to what their thoughts are, and before just saying you cut X number of X percentage.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think we should go with what Mr. Easter proposed, and some of these are no-brainers. I think we would all agree on. If we could get those out of the way, we may not need presentations from some people. Others, we need to hear from them.
Exactly right. And that's the question I'm asking you.
Yeah. I'm interested in hearing from the ones who are requesting additional personnel, which is a smaller number than the vast majority of the departments. From previous review of non-personnel portions of the budget, they are small in general terms from a dollar standpoint, and I don't have any concerns with the non-personnel portions. So my goal was trying to limit the number of committee or departments that have to come in and talk to us.
I personally am interested in hearing from anybody, anyone who wants to come talk about it, any department that wants to.
Okay.
Well, that's fine, but if we're not, okay, that's fine.
Other comments? So, other comments before what directions do we want to give the county administrator then as it relates to setting up, finding out who wants to come and then setting up appointments accordingly?
I thought we were doing that today.
Yes.
Not with appointments, but like right now, they're all on the line, most of them.
That's good. Okay.
So can we
That
just
was my
start
thought,
at the
too.
top and work our way down?
Mr. Harvey, who do you have? One we just work our way down.
I see the entire sheriff's office is, looks like actually the leadership is in a room. Why don't we start with them?
Let's start with the sheriff. Sheriff Walker?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You're coming through loud and
Yeah.
clear.
Okay. And we had discussed a lot of stuff here, and I understand with the current situation how it is. We had talked about one of our, Mr. Easter, we had asked for our part-time personnel to be given a full-time position, which would only be that of salary and any benefits that go along with that. Wouldn't need any equipment, wouldn't need any vehicles, that's already got all that. That was one of the proposals in our budget. And we had also asked for a salary to have a salary scale, and because we had done our own salary study and we were kind of far behind a lot of the surrounding counties, so we come up with a scale of our own, and we were just asking for consideration of that and an overtime addition that would be used just like we do the PCOs and TDOs, which when we have open shifts that we can pay these people to work, and that's the only thing that line item would ever be used for, not for anything else. And it also asked that we could have an additional, which would cut our budget back some, additional $31,619.80 from CIP. Because they originally, for our radio system, by the time we got the original quote, everything had gone up, and a lot of the stuff that we already had was obsolete. So in this thing, it would also update the rest of it. We just need that much added to 125,000, which would take it out of the CIP from and fund and reduce it from our asking here in our budget.
All right.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, yes, go ahead, Roger.
Sheriff Walker, you originally were asking for 4 new positions and all this other stuff that you mentioned for a total of 420,000 and change. Are you proposing less than that now?
Well, what we're proposing, I'm not asking for any extra people, and we would just say we were asking for 1 extra full-time position, but he's a part-timer, he works here now, so all of
Yeah, so you're backing away from your original request.
So we're not asking for any new positions or anything else. We're just asking for our operational budget. We have the grants in place. And I said we had done a salary study and should be aware of some of that. And we're asking for the additional overtime to cover any open vacancies as we have for people that's out on sick leave, vacation, family emergencies, or anything that comes up, so we have to cover shifts.
Yeah.
Then you're saying that's a convert. I apologize. You're saying convert 1 part-time to full-time. So it's not a new person, but it is more hours for that person, correct?
Yes, and the only thing it does, it would raise him to the starting full-time salary of what it is right now is $37,000. That and the benefits would have improved with it.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm extremely supportive of the salary equalization work that you've done. I think that's one of the biggest problems we have in the county, in my opinion, is that we hire good people but are unable to retain them because we pay them far too little. And most of those people are actually citizens of our county as well. So by paying them a good, decent living wage, I think there's benefit to every citizen as well as the specific ones that are employed. I'm definitely in favor of everything that you've just suggested and appreciate that you're cutting back on the request for new employees. I think that's a great compromise.
I just feel it's a lot better to try and take care of who we have now rather than train them and they go somewhere else. And our dispatchers their salary is so out of whack with our surrounding counties that they are in dire need of some kind of relief here.
You can look at the nuts and bolts of the request at this point, but what does that do to his bottom line request?
That was my question.
That's what Mr. Scott wants to know. What does that do to his bottom line request?
It would change our bottom line request to $2,712,902.
And Ms. Cabe, isn't almost all of that already baked into the existing draft? Because the only part you had not included was the 4 positions and equipment.
I also have not included I was unaware of the part-time to full-time request.
Yeah,
That's
That's
new.
new.
So I don't have the exact figure on that, and I don't have that included in the budget you have. And I have not included the salary realignment in that. I didn't include any extra personnel or extra salary increases.
Oh,
Oh,
I
I
thought
thought
you
we'd
did
all
the
been
salary
clear in the
increase.
workshop that we've supported that. Yeah.
Nope, all I got from the workshop was to give everybody a 0.75 across the board raise.
Glad you asked that question, Mr. Scott.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to just be clear because I sat with the sheriff and discussed this in detail, and I want to understand that the only thing he's proposing to change is not requesting 4 new people, but only requesting 1 part-time to full-time. Everything else, the salary alignments and everything else stays the same. Is that right, Ricky?
That's what I'm getting.
Yes, that's
Thank
what
you.
we were requesting.
Because I don't know what the bottom line number is now with Carla's going to have to do that, but I'm in full support of everything that he requested.
As am I.
And I just want to reiterate to you, this salary things, the salary request, it doesn't include me. It's just, this is for the employees that work here. I'm not included in this.
Yeah,
salary.
I know.
Right.
I think it's critical we start paying our deputies and also dispatchers especially more competitively because we're just a training ground for other counties.
Yes. I agree.
Yeah, I think we're spending more in hiring and training than we are if we do some increases to their salary and can get the retention better.
Right. I think it will save us money in the long run.
Can I say something?
Yes.
Let me ask you this, does this include the radio funding being moved from the budget to requesting that extra from the CIP? Because that would knock this figure down some, doing it that way.
With our earlier decision that the CIP funds don't have to be restricted from the landfill, I'm not sure that really makes much difference to us at the end of the day. Spending is spending.
Okay.
That's my take.
All right.
All right.
Second.
I'm sorry, Joseph, but I'm not quite sure I agree with that. I think we still need to track CIP separately, and CIP is by nature, by definition, capital projects that
The improvement
money,
project.
if this is a capital investment, then it should have been in CIP all along.
That's
And I
right.
think it's a good idea to track them
That's true.
separately.
That's perfectly fine. I've shared with y'all earlier, I don't think a lot of what we have in CIP are truly capital improvements. For example,
Yeah.
upgrading the radio system. Upgrading the radio system is a definite need. I'm incredibly supportive. I don't feel that's CIP regardless. That's just normal. You have to upgrade systems on a periodic basis. I think the county's not been handling CIP well because we don't have budget for that. So I'm Mr. Scott, however you'd like to track that. I don't have any concerns with that. It's more my broader concern with how we've been using CIP.
From what I'm hearing, Mr. Scott, you didn't have any problem with how it's being tracked now, correct?
No. What I'm saying is, if it's truly a CIP
Right.
capital investment, it should come out of CIP funds.
CIP funds, exactly right.
And we can allow CIP funds to be used for non-CIP items. If these radios are non-CIP, I'm not saying let's not use the tipping fees for it. I'm saying
Right.
let's
Yeah,
categorize things properly and track things properly.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Agree.
All right.
So I guess
Ms.
Sheriff
Cave-
Walker's,
Ms. Ca- Yeah, I think the main is, does Ms. Cave have what she needs to take that back for our next
Yeah.
version, including that piece that you're asking?
That's what I'm trying to, that's where I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, so I'm going to get with Sheriff Walker and Raina and figure out the exact dollar figures on, here's what I've got, converting a part-time to a full-time position, and that will include fringes and health insurance,
Yes.
and the salary realignment for all current personnel.
yes.
Right.
I will get the figures on that and include that in our next version.
All right.
And
Thank you.
since, Mr. Chairman, since Carla mentioned it, can we discuss the 3.75% versus what I proposed, 2.5%?
All right, go ahead.
For raises for all county employees, I'm proposing to not do 3.75, but to do 2.5 with some exclusions. And the exclusions would be the county administrator, finance director, and any employees with less than 12 months service, and all part-time employees.
All right. What's the pleasure of the board?
I have one question.
Yeah.
I know there's been some discussion in the past, and I'm not completely clear. When we say these raises, whether they apply to the entirety of the person's salary or just the county-funded portions. I believe that historically they've only applied to the county-funded portions, which is part of what's left the sheriff's office and other constitutional officers in challenging situations, because the person being hired has no control whether they're being funded by the county or by the state.
That's right.
So I guess it's a question of what your intent is, and then, but I guess it's probably clear. My goal would be, let's not make a employee have to be penalized because of where their money comes from, and to treat them all equally because they're all doing equal work.
Yes, that's my take on it too.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to weigh in on that. I've ran some quick figures. This is David, by the way.
Thank you, David.
On the excluded people, Carla, people with less than 12 months and part-time, and my God, we can't screw the part-time people over because that's all they have. But anyway, that number comes out less than $10,000. I just have a hard time, especially leaving the part-time folks out, as not being well thought out. I mean, I just did the county employees were on the back of a napkin. That's only $3,500 difference by leaving the part-time folks out. I just don't see a significant impact. And at the same
David, leaving them out as an exclusion on the raises, to me, was a compromise from somebody else who recommended we eliminate all part-time positions. I think people would be happy to keep their job with no raise rather than lose it.
For $3,500, though, we're going to knock the heck out of morale around here. At the same time, while you're doing an equalization on the deputies, and you'd have to go back and do some research. And Ricky, I'm not slamming your office by any stretch as to how the folks got so disaligned. And it's not just because of the difference between comp board pay portion and county pay portion. This is a bigger nut to crack than y'all are making this out to be. And yes, we're in trying.
I don't think. Yeah, I think that.
All right.
I think
One at a time now,
yeah,
please.
I think we can move on.
Go ahead, David.
No, I'm done. It's obvious that on not just this issue, but many issues, the folks that have to drive the train for some of the decisions that are being made are not being talked to prior to any action by the board. And I'm coming from David's position only. I finally saw Roger's stuff about 20 minutes ago, and I was floored with some of the stuff that I saw. And here you folks are, may have got it yesterday. You're making decisions on that right now without having a good time to think about it and to converse with the knowledge base that's behind it, have it deep in the county. And I'm afraid you're not using your resources to the best of your ability. I'm done. I'm sorry. Get over it.
This is,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, Mr. Easter.
I actually happen to agree with Mr. Whitaker, although I don't appreciate the assumptions being made there. I think it's fine for a proposal to be put out. That's the point of discussion here. No decision was made at this point.
That's right.
Mr. Scott has proposed something for discussion, and there are still 4 other people to weigh in, plus we had not had an opportunity yet to ask others for input.
I was going to say that any information that we've gotten at this point, we have gotten in, whether written, oral, or however, whatever, it's primarily for informational input. No decision has been made, and we asked for folk to provide information, and that's what's been provided.
And I take exception with that because of the way y'all reacted to the tipping fees and how you just voted to change all that. That's y'all's decision. And as a citizen, I think you made a bad one. But your meeting needs to continue because Frank is right. This is a discussion forum. It'd be nice to hear some discussion.
Right. All right.
That's right. And Mr. Chairman, I'm throwing a proposal out there.
Right.
I suggested saving the part-time employees rather than letting them all go. If I'm open to including them in the increase, that was just a proposal.
All right. Okay.
And again, anything we decide to give direction to Carla today, we're not voting on. We're not approving anything today.
No, we want to see how
the bottom line.
we want to see how it's going to look when it's all put together. That's why
That's
we're
right.
in bottom line. So appreciate any comments that come in at this point.
And this is Carla. I can weigh in on the dollar figures.
All right.
So when my original proposal to just scrap all raises saved us $162,000, with Roger's scenario of just giving the 2.5%, we would save $65,000.
Gotcha.
About. So.
All right. Right.
So it's a $100 difference.
Yep.
Thank you. All right. Do we have anything? We're still with the sheriff, right?
No, I think we moved on. We're with the we're with the salary increase. We're with the salary increase.
That's right.
Yeah. What direction do we give to Carla?
Carla, that's right.
So I think before going back to the 2.5, 3.75 or anything else, I think we need some resolution on the part-time. I can't recall who made the suggestion for eliminating part-time salaries, positions altogether. If someone's in favor of that, I think that would be good to tee up for discussion first, so we can go back then and decide on overall increases.
I personally would be in favor of us just doing it with the inclusion of part-time folk at this point.
Right.
I agree with that.
I agree with that, but if there's a separate proposal to eliminate part-time positions, then that's more important for discussion.
Well,
I don't think it was. I think Carla just mentioned it as some possibilities.
Right. That was just mentioned. Wasn't a recommendation.
Then good. Glad to hear that.
That was just sharing ideas of what other counties are considering for saving.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, thanks. I didn't even remember where it came from. That's no problem.
All right. Okay. Anything else on that subject?
Well, so I don't feel like we've given her any direction on what to put in.
Carla, do you have enough?
No.
I'm supportive of the 2.5%. I think that's better to bring that down from the original proposal. I agree with excluding the county administrator and the finance director because of recent raises and recently hired. I would vote or propose to leave in the part-time employees for the increase, and again, that be on their total salaries, not just county funded.
I agree with
That's my
that.
take.
I agree with that.
All right. Is that what you need, Carla?
That's what I need. Thank you.
All right.
Do you want to go to another department?
Let's go to another department. If we're finished with, we've given her what she needs there. Let's go.
Mr. Chairman, just one more thing along the lines of what we just talked about is the insurance. Do we want to fully fund insurance for all the employees or change the percentage? I'm suggesting we fully fund any increase in insurance for our employees.
What percentage do we currently fund?
That was my question.
Carla?
Carla, what percentage do we currently fund, Carla?
We currently fund about 98% of all employee costs, and I believe about 20% of any dependent costs. And we received a 35% original renewal rate. They're negotiating right now, but if we were to absorb the entire increase, you know, I built 20% into the budget for us to absorb. If we absorb 35, that'll cost us $94,000. Typically, we would pass some of that on to the employee, probably through HSA savings, but it's totally up to you how you want to handle it.
My point is, if we give them a 2.5% raise and then we take back 3% in insurance, it doesn't get them anywhere.
All right. So what's the pleasure of the board? I mean, what direction do you want to give Carla?
Personally, I would like to see what the bottom line numbers look like with us just continuing on the way we're going and absorbing any increase.
Okay.
All right.
It's a line we can look at later.
We can look at that. We can look at that line later on. Is that all right, Carla?
Yes, I'll leave that absorption in there. $94,000.
All right.
I agree with that as well. I find it a little challenging. I like the concept of, I certainly don't want to give it a raise and then take more than the raise away through the health insurance. I think I just don't personally have enough clarity for the costs and what the different options are. So I'd love to see a little bit more specifics on that, the next version. I'm sure you have it. It's just not something I've been able to absorb yet in my mind.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, District 1.
Yes.
If you give them whichever raise you're going to give them, what we're going to do is put them in a different tax bracket. It's going to cost them more money. Not all of them, but some of them will be in a different tax bracket. So you have to think about that also. They will actually lose money if you put them in a different tax bracket, and then they have to pay the other part of the insurance.
So would you propose not giving them more money? I'm not sure I understood the alternative.
No, I propose giving them the raise plus paying their insurance.
Okay.
Got you. Thank you, Mr. Gleason. That's helpful.
Isn't that
I appreciate that.
Isn't that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gleason.
According to the figures, the money we save on the proposal salary raise will kind of balance out the proposed difference in the insurance anyway.
I was going to say the same thing. You're right. All right.
Can I ask the sheriff a question?
Yes. Let me do this first.
Yes, sir.
Carla, you have enough information on that
Yes.
issue, right? Okay, so we've taken care of that. Go ahead, Mr. Gleason.
Sheriff, if we lose one deputy to another department, what would it cost us to get, and I'm going to ask you the same thing for a dispatcher, what would it cost us to get back up to speed on each one of them with a new deputy and a new dispatcher?
You hold on 1 second, I'll get that figure for you.
All right.
Right. while he's getting that figure for you, where do you want to go next?
Mr. Chairman, I'd
A lot of
suggest
members of the
if school
circuit
board.
court. Go ahead, Mr. Harvey.
I'm sorry. I would suggest
No,
Dr.
go ahead.
Harper, school superintendent, and the school board next.
All right, then as
Yes.
soon as we get this figured out, I'd agree with you. Sheriff, you ready? Or let's go ahead. Go ahead.
I can give you the training cost it is to the department, but you've got to realize while they're training, they're getting paid their salary. And the training cost alone for some communication officer is at least $21,000. And the training cost alone for the deputies is $27,000. And then you have to also figure in the dues that we pay for Crater Academy. That is part of it too. You have to include those dues that we have to pay to, it's a one-time dues that we pay every year just to have officers there.
Okay.
All right.
Yes, sir.
So you're talking about salary plus those figures and plus the $16,000-$17,000 and change that it costs to send them to the academy.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That answered your question, Mr. Gleason.
Yes, it does. That helps quite a bit.
All right. Thank you. All right. Let's go to the school board. Dr. Harper.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Can hear you loud and clear. Trust you're well.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I am glad to be with you today.
Yeah.
Happy to answer any questions that the board has regarding our proposed budget. I know it has changed a couple of times, and hopefully tomorrow morning we'll know what the General Assembly votes on, hopefully today. But at the present time, we are looking at a significant loss from the state. And again, happy to answer any of the questions that you have.
All right. Questions from board members?
Anything since last week you talked to us with?
So, we do anticipate a loss of about 350,000 from the state, and the current request from the county with our budget is $6,377,574.10.
Dr. Harper, have already been updated with the reduction of the student, I can't remember the type position. I'm sorry. I saw in your last meeting, y'all eliminated one of the proposed positions. Is that included, that update?
So no, it does not. When the school board met to talk about where reductions could be made, I believe you're speaking about the dean of students and
That's right.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, the request in those positions, it does not include those reductions. And the board voted to make those reductions should we see a decrease in the funding from the county.
Are you able to share with Ms. Cave or us what that new amount would be total with those reductions?
Yes, basically, if we lost the dean of students, the social worker, and a few other things that were on the additions, it would be 210,000.
Thank you.
All right. You're Dr. Harper. You're really waiting to hear from Richmond.
We are. We've received preliminary numbers from the Virginia Department of Education, but based on what the governor has proposed in terms of budget cuts,
Right.
And the General Assembly is scheduled to be voting on that today, from what I'm told. And so we will receive an updated calc tool from the Virginia Department of Education as soon as they receive the final budget from the state.
Gotcha. Other questions from board
Yeah.
members?
Dr. Harper, what does the number you just requested, what are you assuming for sales tax revenue? Are you building in any decrease at all, or is that on top of this?
So we have not budgeted any sales tax revenue decrease. It's very difficult for us to determine what that state number will be. That is why in the most recent meeting, we requested that we be able to carry over any additional funding from this year and being extra conservative this year in hopes that we could offset any loss of revenue from state sales tax with carryover funds from this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Other
So,
questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
I'd like to make a proposal that we give Carla the direction that we fully fund the school's request minus $100,000, because I think we all agree we just don't agree with this students. I think the social worker is needed, and I would like to not cut that. I think the dean of students is just unnecessary.
All right. Dr. Harper, did you?
Yes, sir. I heard that. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Carla?
Welcome to disagree, Dr. Harper.
You know, with the current situation, we are very thankful for the Board of Supervisors support, and we're going to find ways to manage the situation. We, like the Sheriff's Department, suffer from the same salary equalization issues, and your support on that is critical to our success and retaining our current Amelia staff. And so our health insurance is increasing, and we unfortunately are going to have to share some of that responsibility with the teachers and staff. And so, you know, if the dean of students is not in the budget, we will manage the budget without that.
All right.
And Mr. Chairman, I would add that counties surrounding us are actually cutting taxes and cutting school funding. And I think this gives us an opportunity to finally gain a little ground with some of the people we compare our teacher salaries to. If we can fund this school budget, it helps us get a little bit, we're still behind, but it'll help us get closer to being with pay equity with some of the other counties if they're not including increases. And I think that's important for us going forward.
Mr. Chairman, may I add an additional statement?
Yes, go ahead.
So, you know, Mr. Scott is quite accurate. We are 77% of school divisions in our region pay higher than Amelia, and it makes it very difficult for us to continue to maintain staff. So while the salary equalization in our budget does cost more this year, and we have done some calculations as to, you know, what step increases would look like in the future. And just give you an example, a step increase this year alone would cost $180,000, whereas if we are able to implement our new salary scales, it will be just for $100,000. So it's getting to that point where we have equal increments between our steps, and we are closer, not at, but closer to the regional average. We still have a ways to go, but you know, this does seem to be an issue for us, and this is the time to address it because the gap will only get larger. Thank you.
Right.
All right.
Well said.
Well said. Other questions for Dr. Harper? Carla, do you have what you need?
Yes, what I have is to fund the schools at their original amount plus what they're losing in state revenue, which is $354,292 minus $100,000.
All right. Comments, questions? Okay, Dad, you understand that, right?
Who are you talking to, Frank?
I said, Dr. Harper,
Yes, sir.
did you have any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right. Board members. Who's next?
How about we run down the constitutional officer list?
That sounds good.
Is Laura Wall showing, Commissioner of Revenue?
Yes, I'm here.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you. You want to
Okay.
give us a brief overview as to your request and so forth?
Basically, the only additional requests that I put in this year were for computers. I have several computers that are pretty outdated. I can do without those if I need to. I'm flexible. I'll make whatever y'all put in work.
Okay.
Ms. Walsh, I thought I
Question,
remembered
question.
seeing some salary increases requested as like steps and percent raises. Am I remembering incorrectly?
So I did ask for a step raise for each one of my employees to be included, and that would be contingent on what their review would show when that time came. The 3% raise for myself was actually just to be included in the numbers because that was going to be from the state, but that has been stripped. So that is non-existent anymore.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
So Carla, do you have the information you need from?
Carla, do you have what you need?
Well, I just need direction. So her computers that she mentioned, those have been in the budget. They were included in the original proposal. It's just the step increases. Are you choosing to fund them or not? If you do choose to fund them, I don't have what that dollar figure would be. There was no amount provided with that, but I can get with David and figure out what that would entail.
That's about $2,200. And the way I understood Laura is that money would be used only if the steps were warranted, because the step promotions for the personnel policy are performance based.
Right.
I think she's right on, but the number's about $2,200.
Okay, she did indicate pending performance grades and so forth. All right. And anything else, Laura, you want to give us? Or
I'm good unless y'all have questions for me.
board members, questions, comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I propose we fund the new computers as well. Some of these have old software that support's going away for. I think we need to keep up with the times.
I think Carla has that included in her budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I certainly agree with the computers. I'd like to make sure that any computers we're buying going forward are laptops. I think this crisis has shown us the need to be able to work at alternate locations is important. And I think that should apply more than just to the Commissioner of Revenue's office. I'd like to see the county as a whole focus on laptops, and it's not a funding matter, but to ensure that we make VPN access available to provide better continuity of government services in times like this.
All right, duly noted. Duly noted. Okay. Good. All right, who's next?
Looks like next would be Stephanie Coleman.
All right. Treasurer's office.
Good afternoon, board. How are you all?
Good afternoon. We think we're getting.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So my proposal was to take the current part-time shared position and make it full-time. The part-time money that is already allocated would be basically the base salary. So I'm asking for the benefits to be placed on top of that.
Okay. Anything else? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, we collect these collection fees, and we utilize the delinquencies. Some of that money could be used as well to cover those benefits on top of that position.
Carla, help me out. You got what you need?
Well, I have the figures I need. Are you proposing to approve that?
She's given a report, essentially.
Yes, I have her figures here, yes.
You got her figures.
Yeah, I do.
She needs direction from us. Direction.
Mr. Chairman, I propose we go ahead and with the conversion of part-time into full-time. They've been asking for it for 4 or 5 years, and I think it's time to give it to them. This other issue of fees, I think, is just same pants, different pocket as far as the money where it goes.
Okay. That's really what I was asking for Carla's sake.
I agree with that. I think I did not hear, and I want to make sure I'm clear, Ms. Coleman, I did not hear a request for an additional part-time person, which I thought was in an original something.
It would be something that we could give up as well if the full-time is approved. The benefits on top of the full-time, we can deal without that part-timer for sure.
I think that's a great compromise. Appreciate that, Ms. Gall.
Yes.
I'm supportive of the conversion of one part-time to full-time.
All right. Does that take care of you, Ms. Coleman?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you all.
All right. All right. Mr. Harvey, who's next?
How about Marilyn Wilson with the clerk's office?
Ms. Wilson?
Mr. Harris, I can jump in for her. I spoke to Marilyn earlier today, and her computer, she is on this meeting, but she doesn't have a mic or a camera on her computer. So I was just going to talk on her behalf of, looks like she's requesting a $5,000 salary supplement for each of her 3 deputies, which would be $15,000 plus benefits that go with that.
Did she provide any reasons why?
She did. And I don't know if you had a chance to look at that. Let me see. If I'm remembering correctly, it's that they have low pays in general. They've never asked for a raise over these years, and she just kind of wants to give them that.
Mr. Harvey, when we discussed the the compensation review in the February meeting, you were going to make the offer to the constitutional offices that they could opt in to that. Did you make that offer to Ms. Wilson, and do you recall her response?
Well, what I've done is I went and solicited some from the providers that can do that. And we've gotten something back. I think maybe you saw about a month ago.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm asking about, did you make the offers to include the constitutional officers in the assessment?
Well, we just assumed we were going to do it, but since we didn't have a provider yet, we've not talked to them. But yes, we were planning on doing that. Everybody.
Good. Yeah, that's what I thought. That's what I thought you were too. I have a hard time. I'm sure Ms. Wilson is correct. I have no reason to doubt her. I prefer have the facts of the compensation study before making adjustments to individual people's salaries based on workload, et cetera. So personally, I prefer hold that until we have the salary study completed. And then I think that will give us a lot of good information to make some future decisions on, which are likely, rather than doing, it sounds a little like spot zoning, but for salaries if we do it this way versus something comprehensive.
what you're saying is reject, and not reject, I don't mean it that way, but what you're saying is that you not, the
Correct.
information that
I would propose not putting it into the
that's not
budget yet.
utilizing that as a part of the budget at this point.
That is my proposal. I want to be clear to anyone from the circuit clerk's office. It's not that I doubt what they're being said. I would just like to make it part of the comprehensive review versus doing one-off.
Keep it fair and equal for everybody.
That's a really good point, but we'll need some money for that too. With Springstead, that's not something that anybody's got sitting around. So as part of this budgetary process, we're looking for that to be included so we can move forward.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Good reminder.
I was going to say, you don't just leave that little area blank and you keep on moving. You're moving, so that's going to require X number of dollars.
Yep.
Carla, based upon what you have, what is there? You can follow a figure on it.
No, I mean, I could probably get it, but I'd like to talk to the sheriff's office first, because I don't know the exact salary realignment figure. I don't feel comfortable giving it right now, but
Okay.
I do want to weigh in after we've heard from all the departments
All right.
to ask you guys a question.
Okay.
Of course.
Good enough. All right. That takes care of the clerk's office for the moment.
Okay, that would mean that the Commonwealth's attorney is up next.
Commonwealth attorney.
Yes, sir.
Who am I speaking with?
Lee Harrison.
Hey, Lee. I'm sorry, Attorney Harrison. Good morning.
That's okay.
You want to give us a brief synopsis of your request, your budget and budgetary request?
Yes, sir. I'm requesting a part-time employee. The state law has mandated that if we have officers less than 25 or 25 or less officers who have body cameras, that a full-time position be included in my budget, unless I agree to something less. I feel that at this point, I can manage with a part-time employee who is already here, and we used the money that we saved when my assistant left before I've got a new assistant to fund at this point. I'm asking that he be approved for a part-time position pursuant to state law. And I'm asking for the money to provide him a computer, since he has to review all the body camera footage that comes in from the deputies that must be reviewed and discussed with defense counsel pursuant to the new rules of evidence that go into effect on July 1st. Those are my main two requests for an increase.
All right, and you got a dollar figure?
The part-time employee comes in at $27.26 an hour, approximately $28,350 a year.
Okay.
The computer is, I believe, just a second, let me see if I can find it.
Lee, this is Carla. You had submitted these figures to me with 2,800 for the computer costs, and
Yes, ma'am.
Both of these requests are in the current budget. And the part-time was included as he's a current employee right now.
Okay.
So everything in next year's budget includes current employees. So both of these requests are in the budget.
That is correct.
All right. So Carla, you have what he's requesting.
Correct. And unless you choose to do away with it, it's already included.
Okay. Questions from board members?
I
I
support
have a
it.
question. If I heard correctly, we don't have a lot of choice. It's another unfunded mandate from the state.
That is
which
correct.
we didn't really discuss that really with the schools, but much of the school situation is the same too, including that, for example, the state government's voting today on budget cuts. They're not passing along any similar cuts of what they require of the schools. So
Right. That's
don't think we have a lot of choice.
don't have a choice. All right. All right. Mr. Harrison, anything else you want to say, or is that?
No, sir, and I thank you all for your considerations.
All right. Thanks. Carla, you have what you need.
Yes, sir.
All right. Who's next?
How about Missy Gill over at the General District Court?
All right. General District. All right. Is Ms. Gill with us? Is Missy Gill, are you with us this morning today?
How about
Carla, do you have anything?
No, sir. I believe Missy submitted a budget and I fully funded it, and she didn't have any extra personnel requests. So she should be good to go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. That's good. That's good.
All right. How about Peter Smith with the Registrar's Office and the Electoral Board?
Mr. Smith, are you with us? Registrar's Office. Mr. Smith, are you with us?
Yes, here I am. Just had to unmute. Yeah, you don't need to see me too.
Yeah. How are you?
Oh, doing well, thank you.
Good, good. Can you give us just a brief description of your budgetary request and so forth?
There's not a whole lot of difference in mine. We're not getting an extra personnel or anything.
All right.
There is an increase in some of our professional services just because of cybersecurity requirements from the state. We're going to have to pay Bo more to do more work, Bo Lynch.
Mhm.
He's our co-opted IT person.
Right.
And we're also, with the early voting, we're going to have to pay people to work that site 2 weeks before the election. So that will also involve some additional costs. One thing, I don't know if Carla's aware of this or not, but excuse me one second. Let that go to voicemail. But the state decided to fully fund the general registrar position because, historically, the locality's been picking up about 30% of the registrar salary. And
All right.
assuming they don't change their minds, the General Assembly did decide to fully fund that position going forward, so that should help the county out at least a little bit.
All right. Is there any, Carla, do you have what you need from the registrars?
I do. Yep. He submitted a budget earlier and I included it all, and he's been in good communication. So I have what I need.
All right. Questions or comments from board members? All right.
I have one question, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
With the state fully funding the registrar's position, which is a good opposite of what I just mentioned a minute ago, overall, is the registrar's office an increase or a decrease in funding requests?
They are an increase of a little over 10,000 for the registrar and about 9,400 for the electoral board.
And that does include the salary, basically decrease or offset from the state then?
That does not. That's just our expense. The salary would give us back, let's see, an additional 30% of his budget. So we'll get about 16,000 extra for him. So
Okay.
actually, yeah,
It's
it
going to
looks
be
to net.
close to even. Close
Yes.
to even. Okay, that's great. That's
Yep.
great news. Thank you.
Hmm.
All right, good. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Who's next, Mr. Harvey?
How about Jane Henderson with Virginia Cooperative Extension?
Hey, Ms. Henderson, are you with us today?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I submitted our budget request to Carla. Currently, we do not have an agricultural agent, which was still included in that budget. I am more than happy to comply with whatever the board decides as far as our funding coming up. So
All right. You still there?
Are you currently hiring?
I think we lost her.
I think we lost her. Carla, what do you have from them?
I have a really simple budget from them that's fully funded. It's not very different at all from prior year budget. It's about level funding.
What level of funding? Does she have that agent in there?
No, she doesn't have additional positions.
She does not.
She's back.
She's back.
Okay.
Ms. Henderson? Ms. Henderson?
hello?
Ms. Jane Henderson, she said, I'm getting something that says I'm not hearing anyone.
I lost connectivity for some reason, so I couldn't hear anything come. I could see you all, but I couldn't hear anything. So were there any questions for me?
Yeah, you said you didn't include that non-agent in your budget, did you?
That at the time that the budget was formulated, she was still in our office, and it had gone to, by the time it reached the administrator's office, that amount was still part of our current budget funding.
So it's just a position where someone left. You're just saying there's no one in it right now. It's not an additional request, though, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's got you. You got that, Carla?
So just keep what you have already, Carla.
Yes.
Keep what you have.
So it was level funding. There were no additions to our budget request coming forward, and during that process, the person left the position.
Okay, I got you. Got you. Okay, so that money is there. All right. Any other further questions from board members to Ms. Henderson? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Henderson.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, Mr. Harvey, who's next?
Okay, how about Martha Pullen with the Department of Social Services?
Ms. Pullen, are you there? All right.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I have been doing some calculations while you've been talking, and I'm sure you may have some additional questions for me, but we were expecting an additional $33,000 from the state to fund a cost of increase, and I'm pretty sure that's not going to happen, that we're not going to get the state. But if we reduce our to 2.5% to be in line with the rest of the county, instead of being $33,000 short, we'll only be about $25,000 short. So making that adjustment in the cost a great deal, but we'd still be about $25,000 short of what I submitted for the budget.
All right. And was that, so that was not a part of that was not a part of what you submitted to Carla for her budget?
I submitted a full cost of living increase, assuming or expecting to bring in $1,000, which was a good portion of it, but I don't think we're going to get $33,000. We won't get any of that. I'm pretty sure. I don't think we're going to get any of that funded by the state.
All right.
So it would take if we got back to two.
She's breaking up. I can't. Can anyone hear?
No.
Anyone make out what she's saying?
I can't.
No.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'll get closer to my phone. Sometimes when I am too close to my phone, there's a lot of feedback. I'm sorry.
All right.
So we'd need, if we drop back to 2.5% to be in line with the rest of the county, as I've heard you speak today, our shortfall would be something in the amount of $25,000 instead of $33,000. And the rest of the budget would not be affected unless they are proposed, unless they're going to do something at the state that I'm not anticipating.
Ms. Pullen, this is Joseph. I have a question. I seem to recall at our February meeting that we had information in our packet that was only very briefly discussed, that there were salary equalizations done for the department positions. And so they received they received increases earlier this year. Is that correct?
Yes, it was a partial salary alignment, and I have the budget for the coming year, but that would not be affected by the state pullback if that, unless they do something I don't know. But yes, you're correct. Part of the salary alignment was done in this current fiscal year, and the remainder of it was scheduled for next fiscal year.
I have a process question for the other board members and Mr. Harvey. Was that able to proceed without board involvement when all the other departments have to come and ask for funding for their salary equalization?
It was done without asking for any additional money, and there was money in the budget for the salary alignment.
But you have to ask for additional money to continue it in future years?
Yes. This coming year in the budget, the salary alignment, in order to complete it, I think $7,000 is a total of $13,000.
I have significant concerns with how that was handled then.
Well, there was money in this budget for it, not next year's budget for it, unless you all approve it.
I understand. So it puts us in a position of, actually, if we don't give you the money, then we're dropping people's salaries.
Right.
I think that is not a good position.
You're not dropping people's salaries. It is just the second part of a comprehensive salary alignment, but if you do not give it, nobody's salary is going to be dropped.
Well, what we did is we gave 50% of the overall adjustment to the employees because we had that money and it was recurring money. It was there. It was available to us. We did not give 100% because we would have had to come ask for more money then.
Who did the salary study?
The state did it.
Came out of Richmond.
Good. Good, that's helpful. So they won't need to be included in the compensation study that we're talking about for the rest of the county, correct?
That's correct.
Unless you want to include it.
I wouldn't think they need 2 studies within a year.
Okay.
All right, is that? Carla, what do
No
you?
further questions. Chair.
I hear you. Okay. And where are we with your budget? Mrs. Pullen, bottom line, where are we with your budget?
It's total of $1.8 million and 520,000 of that is local, but if we're short that $25,000, the local share would need to be $545,000 in order to make up the shortfall. Does that answer your question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Carla, you have those figures.
I don't. That was kind of going in and out for me audio-wise, but I will request a new budget from Martha and incorporate that into the next version.
Right. Questions or comments from board members? Any further questions from Ms. Pullen, board members? Well, you got what you need, Martha. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. We thank you for your support.
All right. Who's next, Mr. Harvey?
How about Jill Hames from the James L. Hamner Public Library?
Jill, are you with us?
As soon as I unmute. Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim.
Everybody on? Okay.
We're all on. How are you?
All right.
All right.
So, as you noticed, we are hoping that we can open the library for 4 days on Saturdays, starting in July.
All right.
So, that would add around 2 service hours per year, depending on holidays. I'm trying to figure out how to stop the feedback, but so basically we can't do that with the staffing that we have, and we've had a really hard time getting full-time staff. So, we asked for the lowest amount that we think we could possibly hire somebody with. And things like the attendant salary cost, and all of that, obviously are estimated, and utilities is pretty nominal. So I guess if there's any questions, but we're hoping we can keep the library open a little bit longer. And, if the country does go into a recession like they are predicting, I was not around for the 2008 recession. I wasn't in libraries, but all of my colleagues were saying that libraries got much more heavily used. So it'd be something to take into consideration. Another thing that we've started thinking about is, there's a possibility that coming out of COVID, as things start to open up, we might have to have restrictions on how far apart we space people when they come to the library.
Listen, are the rest of you getting that feedback?
Yeah, it's all kinds of feedback.
It's coming from the line of Deborah, is what it appears to be.
Coming from the line of Deborah.
Yeah, you have to mute yourself. Okay, try again, Jill.
Try again.
Okay. So
there we go.
Let's see, where do you want me to back up to?
Go ahead and summarize again.
Okay, so some things that we are thinking about considering the current pandemic is that if there happens to be an economic recession, my colleagues who were in 2008 have said that public libraries were very heavily used, more than they have been in the past few years since I've been a library director.
Right.
So that's something to keep into consideration. Saturday hours are especially helpful for people who might be juggling multiple part-time jobs. The more hours we can be open, the more chance they can actually come and apply for a full-time job. If there are put into place regulations coming out of the pandemic, or if it's just best practice to keep people more separated, then we might have to limit how many people come into the building at one time, in which case extra hours would also be beneficial because then more people could utilize us. But we can't do it without somebody extra. And we're asking for 25 hours a week at $12 an hour just because of being able to hire somebody. I don't know that we could hire somebody just for 8 hours on Saturday, especially not at $12 an hour. So that's what we're looking at.
Is that included in your budgetary figures that you gave to Carla?
I included it as an added section. So, and I will also mention that if you take out the state aid line item, which is listed as books and subscriptions, then the county's contribution last year was around $275,000. And without this additional part-time position I'm asking for, our request this year without the state aid would be from the county around $277,000. So we're not really asking for that much extra from the county without this position, but then, so, any questions?
Questions from board members? Carla, you have those figures?
Yes, I do have those figures.
All
It looks
right.
like about a $17,000 increase if you were to add the part-time employee.
Okay, good. Questions or comments from board members? Here, there are no questions or comments from a board member, so we've got your information.
All right, I'm going to mute myself.
All right, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right, who's next?
Okay, if somebody from the fire department's on, I sent the invitation to Kenneth Llewellyn, who's the treasurer. We could hear from them.
All right, Kenneth, are you there? Mr. Llewellyn, are you there?
Carla might be able to speak to what they've requested and what's in there.
All right, let me try Mr. Llewellyn again. Are you there? Carla, what do you have from them?
They actually didn't make a formal request. I just looked at their prior year spending for the last 3 years and continued the local contribution where we have been the prior 2 to 3 years, and they have about level funding. They are looking to purchase a fire truck at, I believe, $400,000 is what's in the budget for this year. We usually transfer that from CIP.
CIP, right.
But I mean, no major changes to the fire department's budget from FY20.
Okay. Questions or comments from board members? Any comments or questions?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Harvey.
And the last one on this side, I've got Kimberly Smith from the rescue squad who's been invited.
Ms. Smith, are you there? Is it Ms. Kimberly Smith? Are you there? What do you have from them, Carla?
They also did not submit a formal request, but the major difference is they are losing money every month because they need more paid crew in order to function. we've given them an additional $200,000 in the budget that you have now. So their bottom line is going from 255,400 to 467,500.
Okay.
And they did give all board members a letter with information about that, explaining it and supporting the request.
Saw the letter. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's clear for anyone else who's listening in. They did
Right.
submit the request.
Sure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any comments?
So, yeah, Mr. Chairman, does this 200,000 get them in the black?
I believe it. Yeah, I believe it holds them steady. They're not making money on this, but yes, I think that would get them to where they need to be. Taylor, do you have more information on that? Taylor attends the meetings and forwards me the information.
I don't think it is going to zero things out, but we thought that would be a good place to start, and then you see how it works for a year.
Mr. Harvey.
They should have better recovery. Was that somebody speaking up?
Somebody speaking?
Yes, it's Kimberly Smith.
There you
I
go.
couldn't get my microphone to work.
There we go.
Yes, we have requested the additional 200,000.
Okay.
The primary use for this would be to provide more weekend crews.
All right.
Currently, we have one 24-hour crew on the weekends, and the majority of our calls do come in. We get more calls consistently on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay. That 200,000 is in the budget.
Okay.
I mean, that's a part of your budgetary request.
Yes.
Okay. Questions
And
or
it is
comments?
already included in our budget.
So it's already included. All right.
Yeah.
Questions or comments from Ms. Smith? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Who's next, Mr. Harvey?
How about David Whitaker, Director of Community Development and HR?
Mr. Whitaker.
How are you?
Yes, sir.
In the paperwork I put through for HR, obviously the raise stuff was there. You've already discussed that, and you've got a direction you're going on it. There were 4 personnel slots that I was recommending. The first being the economic development, which actually came from you folks. That price tag is between 80 and 85,000 plus benefits. So each of these positions will be plus benefits, which is about $12,000 each. The second position was a county planner in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. The third position is an animal control technician, $25,000 to $30,000 range. That's the job that Jessica Easter's doing now, but converting that to a full-time position. And right now, since the deputy animal control officer is no longer with us, we're going to need to fill that position.
What's happening?
We need 3 full-time folks down there because we've just got so many hours that are not being covered. And Brian's pretty adamant about we need to get that coverage. And that's the reason for the technician being a full-time. And in the same voice, not to hide anything, we keep that part-time position.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we fill it or not, I think it'd be wise to hang on to it to see how this thing generates out. The last position I had on there is an administrative assistant up here in our office as a permit technician for building permits. As you know, Brenda's job has gotten more difficult and more complicated over the years, and she's carrying that load along with being Taylor's secretary. And she's also my secretary and Carla's secretary and everybody else's. So she's stretched real thin. So we need to look at that too. We've got some other issues up here that may alleviate that, but we need to get that on the radar screen at a $30,000 to $35,000 a year position. That's what I got.
Okay. Questions or comments from board members? Carla, do you have those figures in your?
I do, yes. They were provided.
Okay. Questions or comments from board members? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to proceed with the Economic Development Director position that we previously agreed is necessary for the county. I think for the reasons that we previously discussed about the need for development and growth in Amelia have not changed, and in fact are maybe more important even with economic concerns. I also support that the animal control needs an additional full-time position, which would be turning a part-time one to full-time. So I support both of those at minimum. Open to discussion on the other ones that I'm less familiar with.
All right. Other comments from other board members?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. David's also suggesting that we maintain the part-time, so that's 3.5 people at the animal control, right?
That is correct.
Not just converting a part-time to full-time.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know about that. But I fully support.
Okay. The reasoning behind it is that it is a 24/7 coverage. So what you've got is the animal control officer and the deputy that every other week are pulling 24-hour shifts. They're on call. And that doesn't give us the coverage as we make up their comp time for that on-call status when they do work. We have to have somebody covering the shelter because you've got the cleanup of the animals and the care of the animals every day, which is a 7-day-a-week job. And now you've got to answer the phones and all that good stuff. 2 people is way too short. 3.5 people, doing the math doesn't work out either, but it gets a untenable situation into a tenable.
Yeah, I'm okay with the 3 full-time. I just question the maintaining the part-time in addition to that. They've been getting the job done. Adding another half body is, I think, enough.
I'm not there working. I depend on people who are actually in charge working there to understand what their needs are.
Yep.
I have a related question. Earlier this year, I asked for more information that I can't see that I've received, or I may have, and someone just needs to re-point it out to me. I requested information about what the county does and does not cover for animal control. For example, I had heard that the county doesn't cover all of the dog food. They don't cover the electricity, things like that. I would like a list of what is included for animal control and what we force the county volunteers to then cover as well. Can that be provided to me before the next budget discussion?
Absolutely. We'll get that.
Thank you, sir. And you may have sent it before. I just can't find it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
If I could weigh in on this, I can tell you that everything that has ever been requested by animal control has been fully funded. So if anything's being requested of volunteers, that is something that was initiated by our animal control officers. So I don't think there's ever been anything forced for them to pay for.
I do agree with how you phrased that as well. I think it's being forced, but not because people asked and were denied. They just haven't asked.
Correct.
Right.
Thank you, Ms. Cave. I agree with that.
Yep.
All right.
So Taylor, Taylor, are you only going to provide a list of what's covered, or are you going to also come up with a list of what APAW and other people contribute?
If I can get the list from APAW, I'll provide that as well. They don't report directly to us. They work through animal control. So
I know, but
I'll come
they
up with a
contribute
list
a lot.
and I'll get it to everybody.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily asking for the amount from them. Yeah, I'm not necessarily asking for the amounts from them, but I think Mr. Wooten has a good idea of the items that are not covered, type thing. So that'd be helpful. Thanks.
We'll get it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have a question about animal control. Do they have hot water in that building or not? Does anybody know?
I'm sure they do.
Okay, thank you. That answers it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, I'm sure that.
Brian's on the call. Why don't we ask him?
He's actually the next person that I was going to call on. So if we're done with Mr. Whitaker, we could get Brian up and say into that.
Are you done with HR and all right? Then
No,
let's
we
go
haven't.
to.
We haven't agreed.
Well, we have two
information.
Oh,
yeah, we have two positions.
The two
He
positions.
requested. Do we want to discuss those, or are we just moving on? We can table them. I just think we need to be clear.
I agree that the economic development director should go ahead, and I agree that the county planner, if for no other reason than succession planning is necessary. I agree with the 3 full-time animal control people, but another person in the office, when we just added last year, we added a person that wasn't even budgeted. I don't see the need for another person. I'd have to be convinced of that.
Which one are you talking about? I'm lost.
The administrative assistant permit technician, and when we just added a 4th person in that group, Tammy, I think her name is, last year. We added somebody, I think it was Tammy, that was not in the budget.
And Roger, if I may, that position I slid in there at a time of transition on some folks. So it's not one of those that has to be, but it's one of those that needs to be in the back of your mind type thing.
I don't support it.
That's fine.
I think it's no secret they run skeleton crews up there as it is. I don't think there's a lot of unwarranted need for employees.
Yeah. When I got
I agree, Mr. Wyatt.
When I started, we had
full-time person was just added last year.
All right. The point well taken.
Yeah,
Harvey, you can.
Yeah, I just want one point. When we started, we had 4 bodies doing those jobs, that we've got 4 people now. We just done enough cross training that we were able to get by with 3, and it was stretching us too thin. But we had Janet, we had Norma, we had Nancy, and we had Joanne doing the 4 roles that we've got 4 people doing now. So
yeah,
that's just a point. I want to let everybody know.
Well, I guess my real issue with this is the fact that we added a non-budgeted position when other departments can't get people without coming and requesting it. But for some reason, administration can just put someone in there without discussing it with the board.
We're doing the budget now, and we're budgeting accordingly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've said my piece.
Right. Who else we got now? You've got Brian next.
Yes, sir. Brian Wooten.
All right. Brian, are you there?
Yes, sir. How's everybody doing?
We're hanging in here, Brian. You want to talk briefly about your area and your budget?
Yes, sir. Mr. Whitaker already covered the full-time position we're asking for. We need to have more coverage during the day. We're only open for a couple of hours in the day, and people are complaining that they're not having hours that they can come see us. Also, phone calls don't get answered when the 2 ACOs are out on duty. The vet bills are becoming astronomical. I don't know if it's the amount of dogs we're taking in, or it's just a bad luck, but a lot of animals are injured when they come in. We have to go to the vet, and we're blowing through our vet budget. And the third thing, it's got 231,000 miles on it, and it's picked the shop every other month.
Okay. And bottom line figure, what were you talking about on as far as your budget goes?
All 3 things is 77,000.
That was included in your figure that you gave to Carla?
Yes, sir.
Questions or comments from board members?
I'm just wondering if we're budgeting a new vehicle, the sheriff's office dispenses the deputies' vehicles. Are they dispensing any of the Ford Explorers anytime soon? It's the same equivalent size to Durango, and we've already paid for it. They usually they come out with around 100,000 on them, I think.
All right.
Good point.
Is that a question?
I think that's a great
or
idea to consider.
something to
Sure.
consider? I would agree. Is the sheriff listening?
He's still there. I can see him.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Daryl.
Yes.
The sheriff did surplus expedition, and it is in our lot now. And our mechanic has not had a chance to go over it. I know it had some issues when it come in, but we have not had a chance to go over it. And I don't know exactly how many miles is on that vehicle.
Okay.
Can't be as bad as a Durango.
It seems wise to hold on that vehicle at least until we can consider some other options.
So we had planned to within the fleet after we go over it or whatever, because we do have a need for to replace the vehicle that Emily is driving as well, because it has a lot of miles on it, and it's even older than the one Brian drives.
All right. Other comments relative to this issue? This is the automobile issue, correct?
Yes.
Brian, what do you think in terms of the discussion that's going on relative to those autos?
If the surplus car is in good shape, then I have no problem with it. I just need something because this Durango is not going to last much longer.
Which brings me back to the sheriff department. You got.
We have we have an Explorer we're getting ready to add to that also. And it's in the Explorer is in good shape.
All right, and Joseph, what do you say? You said hold off on this until we kind of found out what the status of those vehicles that he's surplusing.
That was my suggestion.
I agree.
I agree with that. Good idea, Sean.
All right. I'll go along with that also. All right, Brian, is there anything else Carla, you have his figures?
I do, and I walked away from that hearing. We will turn the part-time position into full-time and not replace another part-time. So they'll have 3 full-time positions, no part-time. And we will take the $30,000 car purchase out of the current budget. Correct?
Correct.
I'd like to see the part-time position I agree with not putting it in yet. I would like to have a little more time to think on that additional part-time position when we come back in the next discussion with the additional information I requested on animal control.
The part-time position would help alleviate some comp time hours on the weekends. They could do the cleaning and possibly open for a couple hours on a Saturday.
I think maybe you could work with Ms. Cave to see how that could be reflected a little bit more effectively, which would bring down some of the costs for like what you just said. And if we can not have to do the extra vehicle, I think that makes it even more palatable too.
Brian, I've gotten some of those calls on weekends also, and you make a good case for the part-time position as far as I'm concerned.
I'm inclined to support it too. I just think we need to look at all the options, and see where we can pull down some other costs. And I like what Mr. Wooten said as well about the comp time and other opportunities too.
All right. Okay.
Yes. Is Brian still on the phone?
Yeah, he's still.
I would like to ask him the question if it's hot water in that building or not.
There's a small tank, I'm assuming 13 gallons, something like, for us to wash dishes and all with.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else on that issue, that area? Carla, you have all the information you need, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you all. Y'all have a great day.
Okay. Who's next, Mr. Harvey?
How about Ken Emerson at the EOC?
All right. Kent, are you there?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
All right. You know the format. Give us a little synopsis of what you requested.
I don't believe my budget includes anything that wasn't there last year. Carla can comment on that, but I don't think that there's anything additional in my budget.
What do you got, Carla?
That's right. He's actually decreased his non-personnel costs. He is, yeah, exactly the same as last year.
Perfect.
All right. Questions or comments from to Ken? Ken, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hey, who we got next, Mr. Harvey?
Mr. Wilkerson, Parks and Rec.
Mr. Wilkerson. Mr. Wilkerson, how are you?
I don't see him on.
Glenn Wilkerson.
Okay.
What do you have for Glenn, Carla?
I have, let's see. All right, so he has two budgets. He has his office budget, Parks and Rec, which
Right.
is increasing $32,000. I think that needs to be adjusted down because it looks like fall sports may not happen, in which case they wouldn't be paying officials and umpires and referees.
Right.
So, but that said, so they're increasing 32,000. Most of that is on the personnel, the salary increase side.
Right.
And their
right.
recreation programs, their other budget is increasing just 3,000. So they're pretty
3,000.
low.
Okay.
Nothing
I
majorly
see a
new
request.
included in his budget.
All right.
Well, I see a request for additional personnel. Has that been changed?
Oh, you're right. They do want one additional full-time position and two additional part-time positions. Thank you. I forgot about that.
That's okay. I'm just making sure I'm reconciled.
Yep.
I think all of you know, I'm a huge supporter of Parks and Rec. With the uncertainty of the situation regarding the pandemic, I still have a hard time moving forward with the additional personnel requests that they have. I think they are needed, but there's too much uncertainty at the moment. So I propose not including those in the current budget and readdressing them, in the fall or future as things return to normal.
I really would like to hear what Glenn would his explanation.
Yeah, me too.
Wish it was
on. Carla, Glenn included in his request those positions, right?
He included them in his request. I did not include them in my budget to you.
Okay.
But yes, I have all the figures that he provided.
Yeah, I need to hear what.
Justification.
Yeah, justification. I need to hear that. All right. Glenn was going to participate today, correct, Mr. Harvey?
Yes, sir.
All right, maybe he took off for lunch. I don't know. No, I'm just. All right. Let's go on to somebody else at the moment.
Okay, next we'll have Daryl Goff with Public Works.
Daryl. How are you, Mr. Goff?
Good, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
I am doing well. Talk to me.
Well, I just sent Carla a revised spreadsheet that I'm not sure what amount she included in my budget, but there was an increase because of there was an error in the spreadsheet, and that increase was 75,000 over what I had sent her because one of the line items had got accidentally omitted. But for the general properties budget, the only major change is we're asking for one part-time person to be rolled into full-time because of the amount of work we have. Other than that, the only other increases for expenditure in the general properties budget are just adjusting our pricing, what we're having for janitorial supplies and things like that, where those costs are increasing.
Okay.
And I guess you want to talk about them one at a time. That was general properties, which is basically
right.
buildings and grounds.
Right. Any questions from board members in that the personnel request? Okay, go ahead.
I support it.
Darrell?
Any other questions on general properties?
Nope.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No.
All right, I'll go to the sewer system budget. In the sewer, we had asked for a 1.5% increase, and that's just basically to cover the operating expenses where we're spending more on chemicals and things like that. No personnel changes or anything to that line. The water system, that budget will actually decrease from last year's request. What I submitted to Carla was about a 15% decrease, and that's due to the funds that were included in the 2020 budget for the GBC tank renovation. There's potential for more savings on the GBC side when we discuss water tank later today.
All right.
There could be some additional savings there, so that budget could decrease a little more from my request.
All right. All right, go ahead.
So that's all I have to add. If you on the three budgets, I'm assuming we'll discuss the water tank options.
That's an item on that, right? That's an item on the agenda. You're right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for Darrell from board members?
I have one question, Mr. Chairman. Is there a proposal for any change to the fees subscribers pay for water or sewer? Here we're talking about costs going up, which makes sense, but I'm not sure I see an equivalent cost going up to the consumers.
Carla normally puts together that information, so I'm not sure what she had requested there.
Carla, do you have any increase in that area for water sewer?
No, that takes a ordinance passed by the board if they want to increase sewer rates and water rates, and we did that a year and a half ago, I believe. If you want to do that, we can. I'll have to work with Darrell and his staff to get those figures, but we can definitely look at that, and I would encourage it.
All right.
I agree.
I'm in favor of passing along the equal amount of the just standard increases, nothing else, just the normal increases that Mr. Ruff was talking about. I'm in favor of passing those along.
Operational
costs.
Yes, like you said, the chemicals and other things just like that. Yes.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Other comments from board members? All right. What else do we need from Darrell? You're going to be around when we talk about water tower anyway.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What do we have next, Mr.?
Next would be Carla Cave. She did last of the departments.
Carla Cave. All
yeah,
right.
so I don't have anything to add to the finance piece of the budget or county admin or anything like that, but I just want to make sure I'm really clear on what I'm putting together for the next version. We didn't really talk about the loss in revenue. When I predicted 5% real estate loss, 10% loss in personal property taxes, local sales taxes, B-Pol license fees, parks and rec fees, state aid, are you all comfortable with those figures? Do they seem high? Because we have to advertise a budget and we need to be as accurate as we can. And I think we need to assume they're gonna have a loss in revenue, but I wanna advertise what you guys think.
I think some discussion is already there. Questions or comments? How about the board members?
I mean, is the loss in real estate revenue and personal, is that from people just not paying? I would assume values aren't going to go down.
Right, correct. Real estate loss I had at 10% originally, but then I realized, well, those are paid by mortgage companies who probably aren't going under at all. So I have a 5% loss. If you think that's still high and we're going to be okay, definitely cut that out. But personal property and all the other losses that I'm showing, it is just to reflect people possibly losing jobs, being unable to pay. And I mean, we all know this is a shot in the dark. People might be fine or this number could be low. So if y'all are comfortable with the numbers, I can update our revenue figures. If you want to change them, just let me know.
I appreciate you making an effort, and I agree with you that it's a shot in the dark. Personally, I am a little bit more optimistic and don't expect the collection rates for real estate and personal property to go down by that much.
That's good. Do we want to change?
But it's like you said, it's based on no one has any facts. So it's really hard. I mean, it's just my opinion versus others. Yeah.
I would rather leave it as is.
Right. If they don't, then we're good to go.
That's right. I'd rather leave it as is.
Okay. So when you say as is, you mean with the 10% reductions?
With what you've got there.
Your current proposal.
Okay. Wait, current proposal without the reductions?
That's correct.
So assuming that we're not going to lose any revenue?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. If I could be clear on one other thing.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not sure that I'm clear on that. So Mr. Harris, you're assuming there'd be no reduction in collection of real estate or personal property. So where she assumed a 10.
I was going to go with the projections that she had put in. She had put in the recommendation.
Right, but you said the opposite. So just to be clear, you support her current projections, which are 10% reduction in personal property, 5% on real estate.
I would go with that.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up, Joseph, because I was going the other way. So I will assume those losses, and hopefully.
I'm sorry if I was sending a bad to the wrong seat. That's not.
You're fine.
You're fine. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. I mean, maybe some others should weigh in. Can some others weigh in though before we move on? And that's a pretty big. The revenue side is a pretty big deal.
They are, yes.
I've been trying to weigh in, but I guess I was muted. Sorry. I'm agreeing with Joseph. I'm not as pessimistic, and one of the big differences with this recession or whatever you want to call it, caused by the pandemic, is most of the people that would be in the position not to pay are actually making more money on unemployment than they made when they were working, including several that I had to put on temporarily. So I don't see that the problem is going to be as big as 10%.
Hopefully.
We can use the number and see what it looks like, but I think if we start looking, and rather than cutting expenses, we start looking a little bit more at a little more optimistically at the revenue reduction side. I don't think it's going to be that much.
I would just like to err on the side of caution.
Yep. Well, let's see what it looks like.
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, we've got Glenn with us now. If you'd like to hear from Glenn Wilkerson from Parks and Rec.
Mr. Wilkerson.
Good evening, sir.
How are you, sir?
I'm good, and you?
We're getting there. You want to talk a little bit about your budgetary request, if you don't mind?
That's not a problem. What information do you need? What questions do you have?
Especially in the areas of, correct me if I'm wrong, folk, your officials, you got $32,000 in personnel costs. Let's see. Carla, give me those figures again.
Sure. Glenn, I think they want to know a little bit more detail on the reason for the request for the additional $30,000 full-time position and the 2 additional part-time positions for $800 for those.
Here's what I have. The numbers I got from filling in for a full-time person. Salary would be $30,000, and then the additional money would be benefits. Currently, we have only one other full-time person in the office.
Okay.
And although our programs have expanded and they've gotten bigger, so the additional part-time person, one would be for outside help, and if we hired as far as stepping away from her. First one would be the current person that we have in the office, who's Nora Pike. She's currently part-time. She would be the person that would be moved to full-time once we advertise the job. That's to help with the increased paperwork. Now, but she's not accepting her salary. And she's budgeted for that very reason. Because if Christina stepped away, still have to replace.
You keep breaking up, Glenn.
Now?
Am I the only one getting that interference?
Just the one, I can't hear.
No, it's almost impossible to hear.
How about, okay, Glenn, you still there? Did we lose him completely?
I just saw somebody come running by my, maybe they're going to come into a different building.
Yeah, that's Glenn. He's coming around the back side of the building.
I'll go let him in.
All right. He's okay. Taylor just let him in at the thing.
Frank, can you hear me now?
All right, let's try.
We tried a new location. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Do you want me to start over?
Yeah, start over, please.
Okay. The first increase in the budget was a request for a full-time person. We currently only have one full-time person in the office other than myself. And that's my assistant, who is Carlin Jackson. Okay? Now the request is, because of the amount of paperwork we're going through and trying to keep things consistent, we're requesting for a full-time assistant in the office.
Okay.
And to help offset some of the paperwork and the load. The person that is currently in the budget is a part-time person who is included in the part-time personnel. We would like to move her from part-time to full-time. Your second part of your question, you said we requested a part-time person. Well, we put that in the budget because Christina accepted a job, but she did not accept the salary.
Okay.
So Christina, if Christina steps away and we have to replace her, there needs to be money there because she's not currently accepting a salary. And that's just for you all's general information.
Okay.
So do you have, any further question or detailed discussion that you need?
Okay. Question from board members.
How do you see the current postponement of most activities to impact these? I'm a big supporter. I just have a hard time moving forward with additional positions with so much uncertainty.
Okay. Uncertainty is all across the board, and you're correct about that. But here's what I do know. They have been calling for us to start up again. And Christina and me and her communicating with softball alone, they have pretty much said, if we go back, they want to play. Whether we play for a month, whether we play for 2 months. And I feel the same way with the adult activities. I feel the exact same way, that the activities will come back. It's just a matter at what level. And of course, that will affect people based on their economic situation. So that's something that I can't determine what's going to happen, but I feel like if we offer the programs, we will get the people back.
And this allows you to do that.
Yes. And it allows us to run a little bit more. Carlin has been operating the last 10 years pretty much by itself. The programs has outgrown one person in the office. It's just almost impossible to keep up with what goes on now with the amount of programs we have. And I don't know if you guys notice it or not, but if you look into the board report, you can see the programs we offer versus what we offered when we first started.
Yes. You've increased.
Would you plan to hire the position? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You've increased significantly the array of programs that are being offered by Parks.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Go ahead, Joseph.
I was just going to ask if you would plan to move forward with the hiring now, or you would wait for the programs to come back and then hire. What's your timing thought?
The ideal situation would be hired July 1, but now with this current situation with the virus, the practical thing to do is to wait and see how everything goes. That's the practical, because if my budget is, I could still hold it in the same, if it came back the same, or if you guys approve it, what I could do is go July 1, you approve it, and then all of a sudden we don't have the programs, then there wouldn't be the need for that person to be in a position right away.
Right. The part-time position that you said the person is not currently taking pay for, you wouldn't begin paying that. You're saying you just want the flexibility in the future if someone else has to take it. Is that correct?
That's absolutely true.
I like the flexibility, but it's challenging to build that into the budget, knowing that we don't currently have any plans to pay for it. I wonder if we could consider not putting that in right now, but understanding that you'll come back, if and when the situation changes. I just feel it's difficult for us to put money in the budget knowing we won't spend it. It's a little, then it makes us look worse than we really think it's going to be.
Okay. And
we're already having to talk about cutting.
Here's my answer to that. These are challenging times. So you guys have challenging situation more than Parks and Rec. So if that's the feeling of the board, I can work with that. Because you just gave me the opportunity to say, hey, come back to me if I need it. That's all I need to hear.
I agree. We would add that position at any time if you requested it, I'm sure we could add it. I mean, that we'd have that flexibility.
Yeah. So that's the way I would lean. I would lean towards supporting everything Mr. Wilkinson asked for, except for that final part-time position until such time that it's needed.
All right.
Well, I appreciate you guys supporting, but like I said, I understand you guys got a big challenge, and it's not just Parks and Rec. So if stuff that has to be cut, I get it. But like I said, the office piece has been very challenging especially the last 2 years, because the programs have grown so fast and it's constantly getting bigger. So I just need to deal with it so the public won't be dissatisfied with our customer service.
Thank you, Glenn.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Glenn, I fully support, want to do too, but I have a question about, is this person an employee or a volunteer? I mean, is it legal to accept a job and not accept a salary?
Yeah, well, right now she's considered to be a volunteer because she's not accepting.
Okay, so she's not, you said she took the job, but she's not an employee of the county.
And here's what I'll share with you. We've had people in that position that has volunteered before, but because she did not take the job, technically she's considered an employee, but she interviewed. So therefore, I mean, you can put it in any category you want. I guess you consider her a volunteer, but she's technically a employee of.
Well, but I mean, if she applied for a job and took the position, wasn't it funded at that time?
Yes, it was. It was. But my point was not in their name. She's not in that position currently. And so if
I guess the question is, where did the money go?
Yeah, where did the money go?
The money is still in that 50, I think it's just off the top of my head, I think it's $55,000 that our part-time budget is.
What you're saying is that, and I kind of understand what you're saying now. That money is there. If you found out that you had to hire somebody, get somebody part-time, or you asked somebody to come in part-time, and they accepted the salary, you're saying that money is there already.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I guess my question is, why do we have to budget for another part-timer if the money's already there? He's just not using it.
Now let me be clear about something. I don't think you heard. Joseph mentioned two things. I think you said 2 part-time people. Is that not what I heard?
No, what I'm hearing is you have a part-time office person you want to make full-time, which we all support. But then you have a volunteer that you want to create a part-time position for. But I also hear we already had a part-time position. She took it, but she's just not getting paid.
Right. Okay.
So the money you can pay her was there. You're just not using it. So you're requesting it is what I.
Okay. I guess in technicality, I guess you're right. But my thing is, if my budget stayed the same and we grow and we outgrow what we're currently spending, and I have to come back to you guys, I just need you to know that she is not accepting the salary.
Maybe Joseph, can you take a try?
You're not really requesting
I still don't understand. Go ahead, Sean.
I'm thinking he's not requesting additional. He's just requesting that money.
That's right.
Available.
But the money was already.
The money was already there before. So he posted a position, interviewed. That meant the money was already in the budget.
Yes.
She's not taking the salary now. That's fine. Where did the money go that was previously budgeted? Maybe the answer is as simple as it's being used for other part-time help. But if it was already budgeted before, you don't need an additional one budgeted in the future. It would seem that could be used for the second part-time person you're asking for.
Mr. Chairman, District 1.
Can I say this again? Go ahead,
right.
Yes, sir.
Let's listen. Carla. Is Carla still there?
I am. I'm here.
Carla, tell me what his budget is like already, and because I think I know where the confusion is.
Okay. His budget is $33,000 higher on the office side, and that is almost completely with the 3.75% raise that we currently have built in right now. The non-personnel costs are only increasing for some travel. They requested some travel and training, probably to get their umpires up to speed. Is that correct, Glenn?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And then their recreational programs are only increasing $3,000.
Okay.
And now my budget that I've sent to you does not include that part-timer becoming full-time. And that's a change I have here to make.
Okay. Where's the confusion?
It still doesn't answer my question.
Correct.
Okay,
if Carla is just extending last year's budget as it was, and the money was in there for a part-time person, that money must have been spent. And if she's carrying over the amount, just making it the same as last year, except for these small changes, that part-time person money is still in there.
It's still in there. I think that's what I was trying to.
You're
Cave, do
on
you
that.
understand, Ms. Cave, do you understand the questions we're asking? And if you do, I'm wondering if maybe you just take that offline with Mr. Wilkerson and reconcile before the next meeting.
Yes, I understand the questions, but I also wanted to share that the budget that was sent in by Parks and Rec requested the full-time office position, but also 2 part-time staff, which were supposed to be for wrestling coordinator and summer camp coordinator. So the request had 2 different positions. So to give you an idea, the current budget we're in had 55,000 for part-time. There's
Right.
58,000 in there for part-time for FY21. We might be good as is. And we just need to convert 1 part-time to full-time. But yes, I can get with Glenn and we can get it straight.
Okay.
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 Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
And Glenn, I might just add, we're not criticizing, we just understand.
Roger, you're correct. I listen. You're correct. I listen. If you can't take objective criticism, you shouldn't be in the job.
And it's not even objective criticism, Glenn. I'm trying to understand the situation. That's all.
I agree.
Yeah, exactly. Full support.
Colin, I thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I thank you for the clarification, Colin.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Thanks.
Do you guys have any more questions for me?
You're good. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right.
All right, Mr. Harvey, who else?
I think we're about to the end of my list, but I would, before we finish up budgets, I'd like for Ms. Cave to talk about requests from community organizations and specifically what we've had requested and what we put into the budget, as well as Piedmont Regional Jail funding.
All right.
Yep. Okay, so the total agency contributions that were requested are funded currently. I had proposed that we make possible cuts to those. I'm not sure if y'all are in favor of that, but currently we have agency contributions totaling $58,973. That's the Blackstone Area Bus System, Feed More, the Longwood Small Business Development Center, the Madeline's House Violence Prevention Steps. I'm sure you've seen the list, but all the local agencies we give to.
You had Piedmont Senior Resources?
Yes, we do. Yep.
Okay.
So are y'all interested in making any cuts to those agencies?
I personally am not.
I'm not interested in making cuts broadly. However, I will send Mr. Harvey a list offline where I have several agencies that I'm not seeing are giving any services directly back to Amelia. One I had asked about in February during the board meeting. I would like some more information about 4 of them before proceeding, but I don't want to do broad cuts, and I don't even want to cut those until I have some information.
All right.
So just being new to it, some of these, I just wonder what we're investing in, what returns are we getting for some of these investments.
Right.
Exactly right, Sean. Yep, that's where I'm going
Well,
to.
some of the organizations have submitted detailed letters going over exactly what they do for
That's
us,
correct.
like PSR and STEPS, for instance, and Madeline's house.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
But,
Yeah, those aren't on my list. I don't mind telling you exactly where my list is, and I don't think there are any of those. I'm not seeing that kind of information from Heart of Virginia Free Clinic, Longwood Small Business Development, Virginia Legal Aid Society, and the Piedmont Area Veterans Council. And the Veterans Council is the one I requested this information in February and haven't received it yet.
VLAS does a lot of things with Piedmont Senior Resources. Isn't that right, Roger?
yes, legal services, legal
Yeah,
aid.
legal services. They do quite a bit with PSR, elderly population.
Yeah, but PSR is funding.
Maybe, I just don't see.
We're funding PSR and they're funding legal aid. So it looks like we're funding them twice.
It feels that way.
Yeah, I think going through the list and getting justification from everybody is good. A lot of them have already proactively given it to us.
Right.
Is the veteran still in there, Carla? I don't have the list in front of me. I don't seem to remember it.
I don't actually know. They're not on our list.
Yeah, they didn't request it this year.
They didn't request
Yeah,
it.
I think what they did is
Well,
send a
there they
generic.
are. They're on there. It's there.
10,000.
I'm looking at the list you sent. $10,000 you have in the
Oh yeah, I'm
requested.
sorry, it is Piedmont Area Veterans
Okay,
Council.
I don't have the list.
It's there.
And I'm not against giving to them. I know what they do generally. I just would like to see examples of specifically helping in Amelia. Concern is often that when agencies are outside of Amelia, that they're primarily serving like Farmville, Prince Edward, Cumberland. I just want to see that they're actually giving a lot of service to Amelia citizens.
I mean, you got to understand, Roger, for example, VLAS, the Virginia Legal Aid, not only provides for elderly legal aid system, but there are other clientele who are not necessarily 60 years of age who also receive services from.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the county, by the way.
Mr. Chairman, District 1, can I
Yes.
speak to the veterans issue?
Sure.
I see the veterans at least twice a week, most probably. I see what they do, and I see what the money that they're bringing into Amelia. When they give a veteran or help a veteran get a percentage of disability, which God knows how many of them need it, when they come back into Amelia County, they bring that money back into Amelia County and spend it. It's painful to watch if they don't get their money because they are all volunteer. Not a one of them gets paid for anything, and they use that money to move along. And I'm pretty sure we could get your figures that you want. I satisfy Mr. Easter that they are bringing and are doing a justice to our county and their veterans. Thank you.
All right.
That is great, Mr. Gleason. I look forward to that and would have loved that in February when I asked for it.
I can't answer why it didn't happen, but I'll make it happen.
All right.
I appreciate that.
Good. Where are we? Oh, organizations, that's where we are in terms of the. So, any other questions relative to organizational donations? And that's where we are as far as in this process, right?
So for now, I'm leaving it all funded as is.
As is, that's right.
Yep.
All right.
I'd like to discuss just a few more things real quick. Some of the proposals I had thrown out there, I just want to hear y'all say no to, okay, or yes. I had suggested we eliminate DMV services. It would save us $30,000 in a year. No? Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
We've eliminated the $30,000 car purchase for Brian in animal control. The sheriff's office has $200,000 budgeted for new cars. Are we keeping that in the budget or eliminating?
Can the sheriff speak to that?
Can the sheriff speak to that?
They're essential.
Sheriff Walker,
Walker, can you hear us?
Yes.
There we go.
uh,
What are the vehicles?
We're just looking for ways to cut the budget, and we're wondering your thoughts on your $200,000 budgeted for your new cars.
Well, the $200,000 is the car prices. They never go down, and because Ford is not making the sedans anymore, a lot of the stuff that we have to buy new to replace. Because the stuff in the old cars won't go to the new cars just because. Right now, Ford they're higher than the rest of the cars. So we just, we use another dealer, we use another brand, we use Dodge now more, and that's where lies some of the extra costs.
because that car has to be customized.
If I may weigh in on that, the vehicle research we did a few years back shows that Rick's attrition rate on his cars runs out to about 3 cars a year, and every so often it comes in at 4. Again, you're looking at about the $50,000 range by the time he buys a car and gets it fitted out.
Fitted out right.
But that's a typical reoccurring thing for the sheriff's office each year is the wear and tear on those cars is pretty tough. Whether he could skip a year or not, I think that's the question they're posing to you at this point, Rick.
Oh, we're not saying.
So these are replacement vehicles. These are replacement vehicles, not additional vehicles. Is that correct?
That's correct. These are typical coming out of his O&M portion on
Right.
attrition vehicles.
That's right.
And I don't think we're proposing skipping a year for
No.
4 vehicles, but maybe going to 3. Let's say 50,000.
Well, we could.
He's asked for what he needs. He's asked for what he needs in his budget, right?
I'm asking if Ricky can get away with 3 instead of 4. How do you feel about that?
We can do 3. It just in the long rotation of things, it keeps high mileage cars out there, and that's why we normally ask for 4. It keeps from having because the more the mileage you get, the more it starts hitting us on the repair side.
Okay, well, David just said you normally get 3 and occasionally it's 4, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, sometimes it's 3, but it's been for the past few years, we've been getting 4 vehicles at a time. And like I say, it helps us in that rotation on the mileage.
Okay.
And the repair part of it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll speak to the issue.
Yes.
Chesterfield, Henrico, and Powhatan have lost police officers by playing with automobiles and not taking them out of service in a proper amount of time. I fully support him having 4 vehicles because I want to keep our deputies in good shape. And if you put them out there in a bad automobile, they get to run 120, 130 miles an hour, something's going to come loose and it's going to hurt a deputy or kill him. I just can't see that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
I support that as well. I support that as well. I think it was good that we asked questions.
Just questions, but I appreciate that.
So let's leave them in.
Okay.
We'll leave them in.
We'll leave them in. And one more thing, Piedmont Regional Jail, who we give a significant amount to every year, has given us their proposed budget, and it's about 180,000 higher for next year than current year, and that will need to be funded. So that's an additional cost. It's on the spreadsheet I sent you yesterday. It just came in recently. So I've got a lot of changes to make here. Yes.
On the Piedmont jail, I read in the Nottaway paper yesterday that they're refusing to pay the or they're planning to refuse to pay the additional cost. Is that possible, or how does that work? I'm not involved with the jails. I'm just questioning.
I had that same question. Those guys who are on that Piedmont Regional Jail Board, what's going on?
I'll let Taylor answer. He attends the meetings.
Look like Mr. Gleason's moving to the microphone. Let him go first.
I'm not fully familiar with the question. If you want to know the truth about it, I didn't know they had stopped any payments or anything.
No, they haven't stopped payments. They're undergoing their budget discussions like we are now, and their budget committee is saying we're just not going to pay. They're not going to put it in their budget.
But we're budgeted how much? We're
So
budgeted.
the question is, Mr. Gleason, the question is, do we have a choice, or are we forced to pay whatever the jail tells us to?
Thank you. That's the question.
I think that you're going to have to pay what they asked you to pay. I don't think they're going to force you to pay anything, but because they're a negotiable group. Taylor, you were on that board, were you not, the budget committee?
I serve on the budget committee. The regional jail is an authority, and it's I guess it's five of the counties in it. And the way we operate is we run. We obviously have to house every inmate that the courts send up there from Amelia County, and we have to pay for them. So what we do is we come up with an annual budget, and we obviously try to stick with it, but you can't guarantee how many inmates you're going to have or not, or what type of situations come up with health and every other sort of thing, federal mandates. We've been under consent decrees. But we have federal inmates in there that pay. We have inmates from other communities in there. Powhatan, Orange has had some in there in the past, and we've charged them more than cost. So what we do is every quarter we determine the shortfall, and it's divided out amongst the counties per usage. If Amelia has 13% of the inmates for that quarter, they pay 13% of the shortfall.
Okay.
That's the way it works. And it's, there may be a better way to do it, but when you can't predict how many inmates you're going to have in there, and you can't predict all these other things that come out of Washington, D.C., we're just pretty fluid.
So if Nottoway decides they're just not going to pay, do we end up paying more for their share, or how does it get divvied up?
Well, I don't want to speak for Nottoway, but if Nottoway's got to have inmates over there, they're going to have to pay their fair share. Now, there is a different situation in Nottoway because they have a state facility over there in Burkeville. And if somebody gets fighting over there, even though they belong to the state, they're under the care of the governor over there. If they screw up and end up in court in Nottoway and are sent to Piedmont Regional Jail for a spell, Nottoway County has to pay for that. And what they have been trying to convince the state is that the state, since they're the lord of those residents over there, they should be paying for it, not the citizens of Amelia. So I think that's what they're most likely talking about.
Okay.
Which one is mute? Right.
Let me address that again. Well, Scott, the intent of Piedmont Regional Jail Board, to begin with, there's one member elected on the board from every county that's involved in it. There's a member, one of each of the gentlemen that have the same job as Mr. Harvey, is one for each county. There's mandatorily one sheriff on each board. So you're well represented, and they will do everything they can to keep you from paying more money, and keep everything settled down. We have had a tremendous amount of federal involvement And we had to build an intake office in there that cost quite a bit of money. So they are interested in everything you are thinking, and they want to know as much as you do. But a lot of the stuff that they do is out of their control. It's mandated by the federal government and some of it by the state. But we'll check into all of that for you and let you know the next meeting.
Really all I want to know is it possible to not pay what, I mean, I don't think it's fair that for Nottoway to just say, we're not going to pay. And we have to.
I can tell you, if
They
Nottoway
seem to do that in a lot of things.
if Nottoway can figure out how a way not to pay, we will be right back.
Okay. Thank you.
Nottoway's
So
always
it sounds best to budget for it, but continue looking to see if there's options.
You can always do your research and budget, but I agree. I don't think Nottoway can say, or if you're a member of the authority, then you got to pay whether you want to pay or not.
All right, so Carl, I guess we're putting it in.
It almost sounds like Nottoway would have to pay. Can you pay per play? You know, pay per time we need to use it versus paying a lump sum. Would we save money that way, or are we saving money by paying a?
Those of you who are again, those of you who are members of that authority on behalf of Amelia, that's additional research as far as that goes. For clarification, that is.
Yeah, just a question.
That's all.
Yep. In answer to Mr. Wyant's question, I think we do pay for how much we use.
Okay.
We have the budget there as a worst possible scenario, but we're going to pay it give them quarterly payments based on what we used the past quarter.
Right. Okay.
So what's the reason for the huge increase? Just increased inmates?
All right, thank you.
Well, you know, we've had medical issues. We've had a fatality or two in the past 5 years, as have the regional jails. That's on the attention of the federal courts and the regulators in Richmond. There have been more stringent requirements sent out. People saying more and more.
Yeah.
The medical issues are also terrific. The medical staff that we have in there went up an additional $1 million this year alone. So this is going to cost you money.
All right.
All right. Okay. Other.
Carl, did you have more on the list?
Nope. I just am not clear on if you wanted, I mean, I heard Roger and Joseph weigh in on what they thought, but tell me yes or no if I need to add the Economic Development Director position, which would come in at $122,000.
Yeah, we never did finish that discussion on those 4 positions. Are we asking Carl to put them in or not?
I would say add them all. That's my.
Add them all, including the building permit tech?
Yes, at least for now, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'll support that.
I guess I have to.
Yes.
I think I have what I need. I'm going to follow up with the sheriff's office, the schools, social services, and general properties and adjust their budgets. The others I can adjust on my own. I'm hearing a lot of adding and not a lot of cutting, which scares me a lot. And I'm not trying to be pessimistic. I heard that word and you want to be optimistic, but I sit in on a lot of these statewide and even national webinars, and they are insistent could get worse, not immediately, and do not pull from your reserves. And we're going to be pulling a lot from our reserves. So I just want to emphasize that. Obviously, it's your call, whatever you're comfortable with, but I will do this updated version of the budget by the end of this week, hopefully.
All right.
Well, thank you. And by the way, I want you to share your opinion. I shared that I wasn't as pessimistic. That didn't mean you shouldn't be. I always want you to share your opinion as you feel it. That's the only way to get good advice. So please feel comfortable doing that always. I think also we haven't gotten to the point where we discuss how we want to pay for these. I mean, I think this is where then we need to see what the picture looks like. Saying add them to the current projection doesn't necessarily mean we will do them all. I think it gives us the worst case idea, and then we work from there about whether we need to make some additional cuts, because we haven't said yes to everything, of course, and where we don't cut, how do we pay for it still? So you're right, there's a lot more still to come, it seems like.
Right.
Yeah, and one other point is, I agree with you, Carla, and all these people are what they're saying, but one thing that a lot of counties don't have is landfill. We're lucky to have the landfill tipping fees. We can prevent digging too deeply into our reserves being what other counties call reserves, by using the tipping fees.
That's right.
And we still have the flexibility of suspending CIPs if necessary, or when necessary, until we figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
Yes, and I don't want to underestimate that too, Sean. While I don't necessarily want to cut them, I think we could definitely say we won't proceed with the CIPs, for example, until 6 months from now or something. We revisit, because that's definitely a good option. I think part of the reason, though, that we're also, or at least let me just speak for myself. Part of the reason that I'm supportive of things like the salary increases, the equalization, et cetera, is those are our own citizens that we're either helping or hurting there also. And so while I get that any money we spend is certainly citizen money, a lot of the money that the county is then giving back out are to the citizens as well, whether they be through public services like the school or directly for salaries, where the majority of the citizens, majority of the employees actually live in the county too. So I just find it a tough balance there, but that's just a couple things going through my head as we think through it too.
Now, more than ever, we do need to support our citizens of Amelia, our employees.
So are we all supporting the 3-cent tax increase and the 5-cent? Or is it 5 cent? I think I don't know. I have it in front of me.
Yes, on personal.
Decrease in personal property. Is that what we want Carla to put in?
I like that factored now. I think there's a lot of change we made today, and then we have to see how it looks. I can't keep all those figures kind of in my head as we're running through them, but I'm happy with that as the figuring for now.
Well,
okay.
We were talking about sharpen the pencils, and I guess as I think about this budget as well, I'm looking at need versus wants. There are some things that, given the situation we're in, there's some things that we have to do, and cutting is one of them, or being frugal is one of them. Rather than down the road we find out that it's going to get worse, what's being predicted. So hopefully we're going to be careful that there are some things we have to do, and then there are some things that we want to do, and folks just need to understand that those things that we have to do is painful, but you got to do it, and that's the approach that I take when I look at this budget.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to weigh in also. If we take the money of $2 million or $3 million or whatever it is in the rainy day fund, and then you raise taxes 3%, all that's good and well, but somebody's got to pay for it, because next year we won't have that money in the rainy day fund that you can take. You will have depleted that down to where you'll have, it'll change your credit rating, does all sorts of things. You don't have any emergency backup, and we're in a situation now where we are in an emergency. We've never been in one of these things before with the virus. If you take the 2 to 3 million out, you raise taxes 3%. At next year and the coming year, you're going to have to raise these taxes on these landowners to 29%, the way I see it. And a lot of these people are elderly and can't make those payments, as terrific as that's going to be. That's pretty much all I got to say. We just got to watch where we're stepping because we're going to hurt people, and those people are taxpayers.
Mr. Chairman,
I think that's some great points. I mean, I think last year, and at least maybe the year before, y'all did similar with taking from the rainy day fund as well, theoretically. But in our workshop, I seem to recall Ms. Cave saying, while that was what was the planned budget, you know, expenses like most years tend to have come in under what we expect, and we did not have to take any or nearly as much from the rainy day fund. So I think it's important not to look just at what's budgeted, but with the realities as well of what comes in.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I would add.
Yes.
I, for one, am not proposing we take anywhere near out of the general fund what would put us in danger of coming below the percentages that are considered a healthy reserve fund. We need to keep that in mind, those two percentages, 25 and 15, I think it is, Carla.
Yes.
Don't go below that and take the rest from the CIP, from the tipping fees. And the tipping fee money that we take out does not go against our credit rating or any of that kind of stuff. And our reserves would still be perfectly healthy. We'd still have a good rainy day fund.
Just suppose that the waste management contract folds up and you don't have those tipping fees and they go back to $40,000 approximately.
I'm not referring to future tipping fees, Mr. Gleason. I'm talking about tipping fees that we currently have in the bank.
Okay.
Next year,
correct.
Next year is a different discussion. I'm talking about this coming budget only.
But you still have to feed what you're building today. It's not going to go away. You can't take the raises away from the policemen. You can't take the raises away from the school system. Somebody's got to pay it. And if that tipping fee money is not there, it falls right back on the taxpayer's shoulders. And a lot of them can't afford it. And we are the guardians of those taxpayers.
I think our taxpayers are completely fine with bearing the burden of paying our employees a justifiable salary. I've not heard an expert argue otherwise.
I agree with that.
I mean,
and I think maybe it would be helpful for next meeting if each supervisor came in with a list of a couple things that they think are in the want category versus the need, and make a couple proposals for discussion. Because I think we're all having a very similar feeling here, yet I'm not hearing anyone make a proposal. And maybe it's because we just need to take a little more time to think, but I like where Mr. Gleason is going, that we need to be conservative too. I'd love to see the list of what he's proposing to cut, and we can each share those in the next meeting.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd also just like to put in perspective, if we raise taxes 3 cents and a person owns a house that's valued at assessment, not market value, $150,000, we're talking $45 a year, not a month, a year. I mean, people are saving that much right now in gas that they're not spending per month by not going to work. It's just that the discussion is just lopsided.
All right. Good enough. All right, then, Carla, you've got your marching orders, huh?
Got it. Yep. Thanks.
Anything else, Mr. Harvey? On this?
Well, we need to get it to a point sometime that we can advertise a proposed budget for a public hearing. And if we need to come back again to firm up everything and say that's a go, that's a go. We've got to advertise. We have to have a full week's advertisement. And that means because of the newspaper being published on Thursday, a Thursday advertisement does not make enough for a Wednesday night board meeting.
Right.
So
it's
how long do you need to put all this together, Carla? And do we need to continue this meeting again to a date not too far off?
I'm actually sending an email right now to the 4 departments I need to talk to, and I can hopefully get with them tomorrow. even today if possible. I mean, they all work right around here. So I'm hoping to have this together by Friday morning at the latest.
So should we schedule another meeting, Frank?
Yes, I was thinking about Friday or Monday.
Let's do Monday. Well, that's my vote.
Mr. Harvey, well, how would Monday fit in that schedule?
If you can schedule a meeting on Monday and come to a consensus about a proposed budget, including tax rates, we got it in the newspaper on Thursday, which we should be able to. That means that we could meet anytime after Thursday, the 7th of May, to have a public hearing.
All
And then
right.
you can't adopt until another week goes by.
Right.
If you want to have your public hearing during your regular board meeting in May, you could hold off for a week. You would have an additional week to get the advertisement in. It wouldn't have to run until the 7th.
Correct. Yeah, I'm following you.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
I think meeting Monday works well. I would prefer Monday afternoon if possible, but I be flexible.
Afternoon would be all right with me either way.
Is it okay with the monitor though?
Is it that's
Their deadline is usually noon on Monday. They have
Right.
given us a little additional time. If we call ahead, say we're going to have a spot, save us what you think be necessary for so-and-so. So I think they'll be okay. They've always been good to work.
We can go ahead and announce the meeting.
I'll tell you, I don't have confidence that we're going to be far enough along to send it for advertisement anyway. I think more likely what Mr. Harvey said about if we were to do a public hearing at our regularly scheduled May meeting, then we have one additional week to advertise. I think there's a lot of open questions still.
All right, it gives us time to get stuff together.
okay?
Yeah.
That's right. And if we want to do it at the regular meeting, we would need to advertise on the 7th. To get it in on the 7th, we certainly would have to reserve the space and get it to them no later than the morning of the 5th, which is a Tuesday.
Tuesday, that's on the Tuesday.
But it would be better to have it Monday.
I lean towards going ahead and telling them to reserve the space for that one on the 7th.
Okay.
I'm hesitant about rushing decisions this coming Monday when this is such a, I mean, as we just heard, there's a lot of concern, appropriately so, about the amount, et cetera. I just thought we need some more time to work than just Monday.
And yet we've gotten a lot done today. However.
Oh, for sure.
The budget.
For sure.
But
Yeah,
oh yeah. And I agree in terms of not wanting to push it. But we're talking about, are we talking about Monday for our next budget, for our next workshop?
Yes.
Yes.
What time on Monday? Somebody said an afternoon or evening meeting?
2 o'clock. How about that?
2 o'clock. Okay.
Love it.
2 o'clock.
All right. That'll work.
All right. Good. Is that takes care of that? Anything
We have
else?
some other agenda items.
Oh yeah, I know. I got carried away here. Y'all were making me so angry. I was throwing stuff around. All right, the next item then is on the agenda is that of Steve Davis Well.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think everybody has the final copy, approved copy of the lease agreement that was developed per the last resolution the board passed. And that's in front of you for your discussion and decision.
All right. Let's see. Does everybody have a copy of that lease agreement? Should.
Yes, sir.
questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Wait a minute. Is Mr. Gore still with us?
Mr. Gore had to leave to go to a different meeting about an hour ago. And I don't see where he's here.
Okay. I was hoping.
Mr. Chairman, District 1,
Yes.
I move to approve the lease and the signing of both of them and get it over with. We've told this gentleman we were going to do these things, and I think we need to honor our word.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one question?
Sure.
Mr. Gleason, I just didn't understand when you said both of them. What were the two?
We have 2 leases to it. Well, and what's the other one?
I've only seen one lease.
I've only seen one lease.
I have 2, I'm sorry, and how I got them, I don't know, but I got them. So I'd like to amend that to our lease that we have, to sign, move forward with it, and let this gentleman get on with his life.
I second that.
All right, I got a motion.
Mr. Chairman, in case anybody has got a question for legal, Jeff said he'll be on in 15 seconds.
In 15 seconds, all right?
Yes, sir.
And I hold that until, I just wanted to make sure that Jeff is, that we're all right there.
I don't know anyone has a question for Jeff.
I don't have one.
He's already
All right.
answered all my questions.
All right, you got.
I don't have any question.
Got a motion on the floor. Further discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor will be voted by districts. District 1,
Aye.
District 2,
No.
District 3,
Aye.
District 4,
Aye.
District 5 votes aye. Motion is carried. All right.
Thank you for your patience, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Now, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would just like to add that in future, if we're having discussions with anybody about purchasing or leasing anything, that when we agree that staff is to go off and prepare documents, that we don't make commitments to the person until the document is signed. This lease is not executed. We are not legally obligated to do anything, but people feel that we have told Mr. Davis that we're going ahead with this, which we should not have done. This lease is going back and forth, and until it's actually finished, we should not have a deal. And, that's the reason I'm voting against it.
All right.
Other than the fact we just don't need it. We don't need the wells. We've never needed the wells.
Thank you. Thank you for that observation, Mr.
Yeah. But in future, we're going to get in trouble again if we're making promises to people before we execute a lease. It's not good practice.
It's not, and I will have to agree with you there.
I agree.
If in fact that had been done,
We're stuck now.
But anyway.
Right.
All right. Can we move on to the next item? Next item is the county employee confidentiality agreement. Is Mr. Gore still with us?
He's on.
All right. We're at, Mr. Gore, if you got the agenda there, we're at item number 5. County employee confidentiality agreement. Mr. Harvey, you want to?
Yeah, we've got gotten confidentiality agreements that I think Mr. Gore has been over with the parties that are involved, and it seems like everybody is in agreement that they work. I have distributed them to some of the department heads and have gotten some signatures back. I have signatures back from our IT folks that control the work on systems with the constitutional officers. So I personally have signed mine. I don't didn't have any heartburn with anything. Seemed like it was fine, and I assume that I guess what we're trying to do is I wanted to meet with the department heads and make sure they understood what we had since it was something new, and get them on board and them run it down their system after everybody was educated.
Right. So you're saying that process of doing what's needed to get that executed is underway?
It is underway.
All right. Questions or comments from board members? Glad we can put this to bed.
I have two quick questions, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Mr. Harvey, does that include like the janitorial staff and others that I know had been topics of conversation before?
We'll run it from top to bottom.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Mr. Gore, I'm interested in your interpretation. Do you feel this is limited to just tax information, or that it is more broad to anything that's confidential regarding citizens? How it's written is my question.
Right. Well, I think the direction was to have it parallel what was done by the constitutional officers, by the commissioner and the treasurer, and those agreements that had been executed, I think, towards the end of last year, were geared specifically to tax records, business records, financial information of citizens and businesses. So that's sort of the angle of agreement that was prepared for admin staff. So it's sort of in that same lane. As far as, there are buckets of information that county staff privy to that constitutional officers aren't. And that opens up a whole host of things that the law already covers, such as DSS records, such as healthcare information, such as social security numbers. In all of those things, I'm pretty comfortable that the law is pretty clear when federal and state law require confidentiality of information like that. That's already known. That's the established law. I think my impression was the point of this agreement was to sort of parallel the treasurer and commissioner's agreement. Were clear that it's drafted so that in any manner should someone on the county admin side have to come across protected tax or financial information of a taxpayer, it could be in any format, email, paper, inadvertently, on purpose, whatever, that it's very clear that they would agree. They acknowledge that the laws that require confidentiality of that information. So, sorry, that's my long-winded way of saying it's geared towards the financial and tax information.
Yeah, that's my disappointment in this. So I brought the topic up in January during the public meeting. I brought it up during February. At no time during that did I ask, suggest, or was it discussed that it limit to financial information. Yes, I would say the treasurer and the commissioner's office are the ones who generated it. But as you correctly said, Mr. Gore, county employees have access to a lot more information. I do wish this had been broad. I'm not sure that I'm going to push further at this point because it's been painfully slow and unnecessarily slow. But I don't understand why it was limited when that wasn't part of our discussion. And I think that if it was going to be limited, then it should have been brought up for discussion with us before that was done. To your point about the laws, The laws protect all of this, including the financial information already. The confidentiality agreements were never about protecting things that were not covered by law. They were about making sure the employee signed something physically so that they knew all of those things. And in many ways, then we protect the employees from laws that they may not have been aware of. So I will just note my disappointment in this and that I don't feel the expectations were met.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Gore, if I'm not exactly clear on the way the law works with this, if you have an employee that's been with Amelia County for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or whatever that might be, how can we walk up to them, hand them this agreement, and make them sign it? What's the remedy if they don't sign it? They weren't privy to that to begin with when they were hired. On the other hand, if you hire somebody today and hand them this agreement, they either sign it or they don't sign it. They don't get the job or they do get the job. Is that the way this is going to work? What happens to these people that have longevity and never heard of this before, and then you walk up to them and say, sign it. And they say, well, I don't really want to. What are you going to do? And where are we legally?
Well, my question is, why wouldn't you want to sign it? Why wouldn't you want to build trust in the citizens of the county that are employing you? That is their tax dollars paying your salary. Why wouldn't you want to sign this and say, yes, you can trust me as an employee, as your employee, as a citizen, you can trust me. I will not spread wrongful information. That's all it's saying. It's just a legal obligation, letting you know that you are legally obligated to not spread confidential information. And every citizen in the county hires these people. I think it's a great way to build trust. I don't understand all of the, as Joseph said, why is this so complicated? We asked everybody to sign it. Everybody just signed it. I've signed one. You've signed one. We've all signed one.
I understand what you're saying, but to me, there's a legal thing. If they decide they don't want to sign it, it's not saying that they're going to violate it. It's that they just don't want to sign it. Because
I think it's a good legal question for Mr. Gore. Let's let him answer.
Well, I don't know that the board has adopted a personnel policy that provides that if an employee doesn't execute one of these agreements, that's a condition of employment. So I don't think at this point that's a policy the board has adopted. Short of that, the county administrator is the chief administrative officer in charge of all employees, not the board. So short of the board adopting a formal policy, that failure to execute this agreement is grounds for either not being hired or being terminated. I don't think the board has made that policy. So I don't, at this point, I don't think you're at that point. That's something the board could consider if that's what you wanted to do. And the only other thing I would say is, as far as simply acknowledging that there are laws that apply and the employees shall not break them, I mean, you can do that. I mean, and that's essentially what the draft agreement does, although it's limited to sort of financial and tax information, because, I thought that was the genesis of the concerns. But, DSS staff, they know that, Child Protective Services information is confidential and it's a misdemeanor to misuse that information. All staff knows that healthcare information is confidential by federal law. That on and on. If you want an exhaustive list of all the laws that make information confidential, that could be done and put into a long agreement. Short of that, you could just have an agreement that says, I agree not to disseminate improperly, lawfully, any or state detected information. You could do it in one sentence. So that's why it was a little tricky to exactly how to thread the needle. Was the focus going to be specifically a concern about tax information and business records, or to Mr. Easter's point, is it broadly, all, federal or state protected information of a taxpayer that is already current law that on how to use that information and how to not misuse it. So you could have a broad agreement like that either just has it in one sentence or has an exhaustive list of all federal and state statutes that apply to confidential information. So that's sort of the context for that. But as far as the legal issue, if and until the board adopted a policy, formally that employees, there would be some sort of disciplinary action for failure to execute this. I think at this point it's not there, so I don't think we have a legal issue. If the board were to impose that as a requirement, I'd have to do a little bit of research on whether or not there would be any sort of exposure to the board of the county for that kind of requirement. I'm not prepared to give you an answer right now on that.
Thank you, Mr. Gore. I was going to say it's a moot point at this point. No.
Mr. Chairman, to
Yes.
me, it's a requirement of the job. They sign this document.
That's
If
what
they
I'm saying.
don't- If they don't, they can't have access to the data. They would have to be restricted.
Agreed.
Restricted access.
Well,
If they can't have access to the data, then they can't do the job.
Well,
Thank you,
one clarification. The difference here is the employees in the administrative side, by and large, don't have access to, going back to the genesis of this, don't have access directly to the tax information. So that's
because you're limited to
that's not part of their daily job.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gore, for that explanation and so forth. And
yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Joseph did bring this up at the January meeting, but it was brought up over 2 years ago by Laura Walsh and not Stephanie, but Pam, before Stephanie.
Pam.
And those two are on the line. I would like to at least give them an opportunity to voice any opinion or whatever they'd like to. If that's okay.
Good afternoon. I don't know.
I'll allow them to make a brief comment. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, you there? It's Stephanie.
I'm here. Okay, go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay, yes, Roger is correct. It was brought up by Pam Conyers and Laura Walsh back in 2018. I really didn't have a whole lot of information at that time, but I would like for you all to be aware that a lot of this has stemmed since then, and you may not know, that's why I would like to tell you.
Okay.
February of 2019, shortly after I took office, the Auditor of Public Accounts showed up and did a compliance audit. One of her questions was, did I have confidentiality agreements from persons like maintenance and janitorial staff? It's not so much an issue with me as far as having the access to the data, because I already know that several administration employees do not have access to the taxpayer stuff. It's more or less, according to the APA auditor, when they're actually performing their duties, what could or might they see just on my desk or even on my computer screen? I'm Sean. It's more of a trust thing that we have that trust with our peers not to take information outside of that office. I mean, if someone saw information about you on my desk and then they went back and they told their girlfriend, oh, Mr. Harris, he's, got to pay a whole lot of money for this.
Why you use my name?
It's just an example.
I'm just kidding, of course.
To me, it's all around, it makes all around good sense for protection for everyone, not just taxpayers, but for the employees as well. Right. And it does give more of a trust sensibility when we have these agreements signed, And possibly if they do violate, and take information, whether it be mine, yours, or someone else's outside of work purposes,
Right.
you want to make sure you've done everything you possibly could to protect that information as well.
All right. Thank you so much.
That's my partake on it.
Thanks for those comments. That helps. That helps. And who else do you have?
Well, evidently, Laura Walsh is not on.
Okay.
She's just listening on the phone. She has no access to speak.
Okay. All right. So we can go to the next item on the agenda. GBC water tower.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, we've got Daryl still on the line that can run through that. And basically what we need is it's a budgetary decision. This is a process that's ongoing. We're getting ready to clean the big tank, and we've got to make a decision as to what we're going to do to the GBC tank, if we're going to do a more temporary solution or if we're going to fix it so it'll go several years down the road. So I'll just turn it over to Daryl.
All right. Daryl, you still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you got the floor on the water tower. GBC.
Okay. Did everyone receive the revised budget sheet that I sent to Mr. Harvey yesterday?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So basically, I put these two options together. One is just a bare bones minimum that needs to be done, which is aligned with everything that Randy has been working on with B&B. And then option B is a more long-term option. Gives you a better coating on the inside. And in that option, it also replaces our SCADA system, which is outdated. We don't have any more support for the Windows 10, and the actual programming is outdated and it's unreliable. In the past 2 weeks, we've had 4 instances where our SCADA system did not operate properly. Once it overfilled the tank, and twice it overfilled the tank, and twice it did not tell the pumps to come on, which was not a big deal because we hold about 375,000 to 250 in the big tank. Once we go online with GBC, we're only going to have access to 100,000 gallons maximum. So if that pump fails to come on, we run a risk of running out of water. So I just want to make the board aware of the two options and what we're looking at, and I'll be happy to answer any questions on that.
What's your recommendation?
I would like to see option B, obviously, because it gives us a more solid long-term approach. In 4 or 5 years, if we want to clean the interior of the tank, the big tank, we can take put the GBC tank back online pretty easy and do the interior cleaning on a regular basis until we have a newer tank, a new tank or something, whatever the options are, down the road.
Okay. Questions or comments from board members?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd just like to thank Mr. Oh, go ahead.
I have a question on option B. Actually, either option. It's FY20 repairs and maintenance budget, 195,000. I thought we had money in CIP to do this. Is this other money?
This is money that's currently in the O&M budget of 2020. That 195.
So the money.
I'm sorry.
So the money that's in the CIP would not be used. The 300 and whatever thousand it was.
All right. So
right?
If I'm not mistaken, Carl can answer, but the 2021 is a request for those funds, so those funds would not be needed.
Okay.
They're not, as far as I know, that's not been approved. That's not in our 2020 CIP. That will be in the 2021 CIP. So if you go with
Yeah, that's
option, if you go with option B, or if you go with option B, you could drop the portable tank and cleaning in the 2021 CIP request. You could drop that. You could also cut $50,000 from my request for the water tank or for the O&M budget for the 2021 budget.
Right.
Because of the SCADA being done ahead of time as opposed to waiting until 2021 budget to do the SCADA system.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I'd like to move we approve option B.
All right, got a motion to approve option B. Further discussion on Mr. Scott's motion? Not all those in favor were voted by districts. District 1.
Aye.
District 2.
Aye.
District 3.
Aye.
District 4.
Aye.
And District 5 votes aye. That motion is carried. Motion is
Thank you.
carried.
Hey.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Darrell.
Yes, sir.
All
Thank
right.
y'all.
All right. Is there anything else that needs to come before that takes us through the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, it looks to me like we've gotten through today's agenda. I guess we would need a motion to continue this meeting until Monday, April the 27th at 2 p.m. And if there are any other items to be discussed besides budget, I would like to know that so we can get the information together.
All right. Is there are there any comments or questions or things of concern that any board members have that they might want to have included in that agenda for the Monday's workshop meeting, continued meeting?
I have one question.
Sure.
Are we able to include the committee appointments? We've got several openings that we've postponed. Are those allowable during these virtual meetings?
I think personally that they would be. We'll let Jeff weigh in on it because it's been advertised.
I would think so. They've been advertised. Yes, Jeff.
I think it's something that, yeah, I think you can do that. I mean,
oh, there he is.
You're supposed to, somewhat limit the board's agenda to the more essential matters under the continuity ordinance. But,
right.
if having an appointment filled in order to have a board or a committee fully capable of doing what it needs to do, then I think that's fine.
All right.
All right. I'd like to have the one for social services and
you want those. You want to be able
commission.
to do them. You want to be able to make those appointments at the Monday's workshop, at Monday's continued meeting. Okay. According to Jeff, you can do it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
A question for Taylor. What's the absolute deadline for us getting you any additional agenda items? Can we have a day to think about it?
Sure. I think we're supposed to post it 3 days ahead of time is ideally.
So we don't really have time. Okay.
No.
I'll think about it and try to, if I think of anything, get it to you by the end of the day.
Certainly, yeah. I do think that if there's anything, go ahead, Mr. Harris, I'm sorry.
I was thinking on another thing to do, move the date up to Tuesday or Wednesday, next week's. I mean, for the next meeting.
No, Monday.
Oh, that's right.
Good.
That would mess with my schedule. I'm sorry. That would mess with my schedule. I'm sorry. Monday. Okay, you want to think about it over the next day and a half?
No, I'm going to let them know by the end of the day if I want to add anything.
All right. Okay. Anything? Anything else?
Do we have a motion to continue, or did we do that already?
Need a motion to continue.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion to continue the meeting until Monday, the 27th at 2 p.m. Further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor, let it be known by the usual sign of aye. I'm sorry. District 1?
Aye.
District 2? District 3?
Aye.
Aye.
District 4? District 5 vote aye. Motion carries. We're in continued mode. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Pushing.
Thank you.
Thank you all for pushing. All right.